Hey everyone. I go in and out of calling you guys Glassman Boppers or TYSO Goblins because as much as I love the name and love the team that it stands for, it feels silly. It feels silly for me to go, "What's up, Goblins?" And sometimes I feel wrong about being silly. I love silly, not that silly is wrong, but I sometimes feel that I'm doing it because I have to, and it's not a comfortable feeling to feel obligated to be on. And this is a comedy podcast. I feel it sometimes in interviews. Sometimes I feel that, well, if I'm not being funny or if the guest isn't being funny, then who cares? And that might be true, but I don't feel that's something sustainable on my end. I can't always be funny. And not that all of these podcasts are always funny, but there is a part of me when it isn't completely interesting. You know, when I'm having somebody on and I'm so interested in their story, comedy could be put aside. But when it's just a conversation, I could judge it in a moment, and I don't like that feeling. I don't think that feeling is fair, and outside of the podcast, I've been doing a lot of work on making sure that I'm okay being, I don't know, normal? Maybe I feel like I'm not normal, so I need to have something else because, I don't know, I have some ideas, but I've been listening to a lot of What the Fuck with Mark Maron, Mark Maron's podcast, and his introductions are so good. Making this introduction sometimes is difficult. I work all week editing this plus any other work I'm doing. I just want to put it out, and then it's like, okay, set up the camera, talk to your Glassman Boppers, but be funny, and I'm not funny. Not right now. And that's okay. Anyway, the point is, in Mark's introductions, he's just great at telling people how he feels while being relevant to the moment and or the interview that's about to happen. And it's been inspiring. Literally, I've been listening to them a lot. And I also, I reached out to Mark. We don't know each other very well. I asked him to come on the podcast, and he said yes, and he did. And he came over a couple of days ago. I'll be putting out the podcast soon, within the next couple of weeks. It's a great, great episode. And I saw more of him than I knew of from his podcast and from the limited interactions we've had. And he was silly, and he's doing mustache bits, and he was honest, and we were talking, and it was fun. And it was all it felt very what it was supposed to be. And, you know, right now in the introduction, I'm going back and forth with how much am I supposed to tell you? I've had people come out and say, I love the introductions. I've had people say the introductions suck. And the truth is, I'm interested in your opinions, but I'm doing them because I feel it adds context to the interview, and that's important. So feel free to fast forward the introductions. I might even start putting that red bar underneath so you know on the video how far to go. But I do want to get good at this because it's hard. Doing this is hard. It's fun, but you know, I'm not sure how much information to give, how much information to keep. I wasn't sure if I was going to acknowledge what happened yesterday with Kobe. Today. Obviously, these introductions are pre-recorded. This happened today. And I don't want to talk about how I'm affected by it, but the truth is I haven't really put my feelings together completely, and I'm very confused about it. Very sad. I had a lot of posters on my wall as a kid. Most of them were titty posters that I got from Hot Topic, but the only guys I ever had up on my wall were Arnold Schwarzenegger, Goku, and Kobe. A lot of people are inspired by him, motivated by him, entertained by him. There's a quote I want to read. I never felt outside pressure. I knew what I wanted to accomplish, and I knew how much work it took to achieve. The expectations I placed on myself were higher than what anybody expected from me. What a fucking role model. Basketball, for those of you who have been listening to this podcast for a while, you've heard me talk about it a lot. Basketball changed my life, not just in the form of now I have something great to do. I mean, it literally gave me confidence. It helped me understand group dynamic. It was the first place I had friends, something I got good at. I learned to connect with people. Moving out to Los Angeles, basketball, I'm playing basketball with comedians who are way more funny and successful than me, but that even the playing field because now I'm better than them at something. I got my first job on Undateable because of basketball. For those of you who saw, I had Bill Lawrence on a couple of weeks ago. We talked a bit about that. Kobe talked about once that how important he thinks sports are for people because it teaches them perspective, even if they don't go on to play professionally. Just this idea of when you're in high school, if you're in a championship game, and how hard you work for it, how it's the most important thing in the world, and you might get it, you might not, but you learn how the next season, it's a new season. And as important as something seems to you, it's just another thing. And he believed, and I agree strongly, that having big losses teaches you how to lose, and learning how to lose teaches you perspective on life. And everybody has their own personal relationship with public figures that they don't know, celebrity role models. I just wanted to share that my feelings about that and how influential he is. And, I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about this. This is a comedy podcast, and the introduction is a bit morose here, so I'm not going to apologize for that. Like I said, I'm still trying to figure out how to do these introductions. And what I've learned from Mark Maron is be present in the feeling you're having now and how you felt about the interview. And let me talk about the interview. You might know Pete Holmes from Crashing on HBO, his podcast, You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes, or his newest special, Dirty Clean on HBO. I've known about Pete Holmes for a bit, but I got into Pete because of my girlfriend Betty, who loves his podcast, turned me onto his podcast, fantastic podcast. It got me into watching Crashing. What a fucking show. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. This isn't me plugging Pete because he's the guest. I'm recommending this because it's fantastic. It's about a comedian who goes through a divorce and leans more into comedy in New York, and it shows the comedy scene and how tough it is to get stage time and making friends with more successful comedians, and the internal struggle that everybody has, where you feel that might change with more success, but you see more successful people in their dark places, and it's beautiful. It's very honest and real to what comedy is, and I guess most importantly, it's entertaining and it's a great show. So check out Crashing. He's a funny guy, and I wanted him to think I was funny. And when I met him outside, because we don't know each other, and he came over, and that was great. And when I met him outside, I got a couple of laughs out of him, and he said, dude, you're really funny. Like, he was realizing it. And I was thinking, okay, great. We got to go in. No more jokes. I want to start this podcast. I want to be funny for you on the record. And I was. I think I was. I was funny. The podcast went on for a while. One of the longest ones. Maybe the longest podcast I've done. And I felt his energy kind of go down a little bit toward the end, which happens. And part of me wanted to edit around it. Part of me wanted to edit some stuff out. But who gives a shit? Also, Pete kind of talked about it on his podcast about this idea, because sometimes Pete thinks he talks too much, and I know I talk too much. And the truth is, this is me. This is what my podcast is. I'm not going to be able to manipulate it into making me less annoying. I am going to be annoying. I am going to talk too much. And that is the product until I'm not doing that, which I don't think will ever change. So listen, if you guys are new to this podcast and you're just tuning in, listen, I hear you. This was a depressing, long fucking intro, but man, is it where I'm at right now. So I appreciate your patience before getting to the funny, because I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite episodes. It is very funny. He is very funny. I am very funny. It is very funny. Toward the end, if you are watching on YouTube, there'll be subtitles, but my girlfriend Betty comes in, and because she's such a fan of Pete, and because she was the one who suggested that I reach out to him to begin with, instead of just asking some questions that she had, I thought it'd be fun to bring her on. So she comes on. She's not mic'd up. You could hear her, but the audio isn't great, so deal with it. Couple things I want to plug. First, I want to plug some of Pete's dates. Pete will be in Nashville, Tennessee, January 30th through February 1st. St. Louis, Missouri, February 28th through 29th. Cleveland, Ohio, March 12th through the 14th, which is Pi Day. For those of you who know me, you know I love Pi Day. And San Jose, California, March 19th through March 21st. You can check out where and how to get tickets at PeteHolmes.com. I also want to plug Patreon. I've been going back and forth with this for a while. I'm going to do it. I'm starting a Patreon. It's patreon.com/takeyourshoesoff. Not exactly sure what I'm offering yet, but what I think at least I'm going to start with is getting out the audio-only episodes sooner. The director's cut, either unedited or very limitedly edited. And sign up. Oh, I also want to plug, because I just had him over, Mark Maron will be in Cleveland, Ohio on Thursday, January 30th at the Agora Theater. I got to plug that because, fuck, man, do I like Mark Maron right now. And also, check out his episode on Take Your Shoes Off. It's coming out either next week or the week after, I believe. And I guess scoot do, goblins. Bubbity blue.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh
Alright, I'm going.
Baby, I love you.
I love your ways. Most days. That was the first draft of that song. Ooh, baby, I love your ways. Most days. And then his agent was like, it's almost a really romantic song,
Yeah.
but why are you saying most days? And he's like, well, it's a realistic love
Yeah,
song.
the second version was, ooh, baby, I love your ways a lot of the time. And then they just kept
And then
finding
You're
it.
losing the rhyme there. Look at these dainty little gibbons.
You want to switch?
No, that's kind of you.
I
took my shoes off. What if that's how you start every podcast? So I just took my shoes off. Applause. Huge applause.
I'll put it in.
What,
But-
that applause?
Yeah, but will you deliver it as if you've seen it and you know the applause is about to come?
I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
So I just took my shoes off. Thank you.
Theme song.
Thank you. How do I turn me down? Yeah. Oh, there it is.
How's that?
Yeah, split the diff. Let's go back up. Take it back up. Take it back up. Take it back up. There you go. Nice. Thank you.
Hello?
Hello, Dane? You could do prank phone calls as Dane.
Yeah?
You could call a very young woman and be like, "Baby?"
You have a little can of coffee.
I like it.
Yeah?
Gets a lot of comments.
It's my favorite, Blue Bottle.
Blue Bot. You know, not to sound like a jerk, but they say your coffee should oh God, forget it.
Yeah, I don't want like where this is going. But what's that? What? You guys want to hear more? What were you going to say about the coffee?
Coffee is one of the most heavily pesticided things. So you're going to, if you can, go and treat yourself to a Gannies. At least we said Gannies. We're having
what's a
fun.
Ganny?
Organic.
Oh, is this organic?
Oh God. You know.
Is Blue Bottle organic? Pete, I get advertisers every now and then, and you're in the game. Could I see how you would advertise a Blue Bottle organic coffee?
Blue Bottle. Have you ever noticed that Starbucks sort of tastes like WD-40? That's because there's a lot of pesticides on that shit. So you got to drink organic coffee because you don't want cancer in the morning. You want coffee. Coffee, not cancer. Blue Bottle.
It's not bad.
Go to takeyourdickoff.net/shoes/20% off for 5% off. You get 5% off, but the URL is 20% off.
The first commercial I did was for Blue Chew.
Blue Chew.
If there's anything...
Wait, what is Blue Chew?
You're a guy.
I am. For dicks and your hair? Or is it just your dick?
I think it's just your dick.
They should make a dick pill that also makes you not go bald.
They have a bald pill that does make you go soft.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So they need
have
a bald pill that makes you get hard.
Yeah. It's like,
All your male needs, and it helps you reconcile with your father.
but does it make you go bald, or does it give you
no,
hair?
it gives you hair and
would
gives you an
think
erection.
That would have already happened. They were making a pill that gives you hair, and they said, "Listen, it might make your dick stop working, or should we make it where it makes your dick hard?" And they said, "Why don't we do some market penetration? Why don't we start this way, and then in 30 years we'll be like, you know what? We made the smallest mistake. We put a little extra salt in it."
Like they meant to do it.
Yeah.
This is an erection decreaser, which our research shows bald men get too many boners.
That is the case. The problem is that it's people with high testosterone.
I was going to say this.
Right.
This is one of my points.
Go ahead.
No, I want you to make it.
Bald men.
Have more T.
Yeah.
Higher T.
Higher
because
T.
That's why Jason Statham, there's something, what's going on? Why do we love this? Even his baldness. Bruce Willis.
Homer Simpson. You know,
Well-
there are a lot of bald guys that aren't fucking action heroes, though.
That's also true. But I've said this a million times, but I'm on your podcast now. A sharp jawline is also indicative of high testosterone. And testosterone, I'm almost done, for those that have heard me say this on my own podcast, meaning you're bored. Testosterone's a poison, so it can kill you. So women, in our bonobo days, were attracted to mates that had high testosterone.
Bonobo days.
You know, when we were bonobos. The primate we're most closely related to. I'm sort of making an evolution joke. Okay, I'm going to go.
I'm
just saying in early days of Homo erectus.
We'll be right back after word from our sponsors. If you're looking for just the right flooring, you need choices. And at Marshall Carpet One, you'll certainly find them. And we're back. Go ahead.
God. Do you really put an ad in there?
My dad has a. I'm telling you guys that we all probably wearing the sweatshirts right now. I put in a commercial for my dad's Northeast Ohio local area rug store, Marshall Rug Gallery.
Wow, and we're talking about hair loss. And your dad has a rug store.
You should see the hairline on this man.
Really?
It looks like a thumbnail. It's flawless.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I've never heard it equated to that. So anyway, when we were
talking about
early
bobas.
man, so not bonobos, but early man.
Yes.
Obviously, you wanted a mate that was going to survive and be able to help take care of your baby.
I still want
and
that.
we lived in a very disastrous time. So showing that you could withstand the poison of testosterone was indicative that you could withstand the poison of, say, a rancid berry.
I don't think they knew.
They didn't know that consciously.
So no. My theory on the bobobas.
How dare you?
You
don't even know what bonobos are. Now you're jumping in with the theories?
I'm going to tell you as a
This guy with
podcast
the
host,
theories?
I'm the same type of person you want as you would want if I were in the movie Pursuit of Happiness. And let me explain. I don't have all the answers.
Yet?
I don't.
Yet?
Because if you ask me something, I'm going to say I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to find out. I'm going to ask Pete about the bobombas.
Bonobos. You didn't read Sex at Dawn?
I don't know if I've ever read a book.
Every horny person read Sex at Dawn. It was this book that was like, people should be fucking everybody.
Yeah?
It was like fun. Because they were saying our closest ancestor is a bonobo. And bonobos is called Sex at Dawn because every sunrise they just have an orgy. Like, they're just making the point that, like, I don't know. I enjoy monogamy. Are you monogamous? Wow, he threw up in his mouth.
Well, that was only because I was thinking about how much I hate monogamy. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, I'm a monogamist.
With Betsy Draper.
With Betsy
Draper.
Monogamy is a very important thing, Pete.
Is this Mr. Rogers?
Why did you took your toothpicks out like they were cigarettes, but
I
you
know.
never smoked?
They get stuck at the top, so I banged them down. You can't open it if they're at the top.
Is that an East Coast thing, or did you have food? You have food in your mouth?
This toothpick?
Yeah.
I like chewing on it.
May I try one?
It has nicotine on it. You want one?
No, I've never had nicotine.
Try it, you fucking pussy. Try it. Get the fuck out of here! Try it, fucking pussy! I've never smoked in my life, and I don't even. Obviously, I don't recommend it. But I noticed that when I would smoke a cigar or something, I'd be in a very good mood. So I started chewing on a nicotine toothpick sometimes. And by me having one on your podcast, that's me taking it serious.
So would you say, "Ooh, baby, you eat a nicotine"?
Not every day. Ooh, baby, I enjoy nicotine sometimes. But you know what? This is real talk. First of all, nicotine.
Does it still look like
beautiful.
a mustache?
Yeah, it looks like a from the future. You got a mustache from the
Yeah,
future.
why things of the future are usually
Always
see-through.
see-through.
Yeah.
Did you see Brad Astra? No laugh for Brad Astra.
The thing is,
you're too busy with your mustache.
Yeah,
to
but no,
laugh
Brad
at
Astra, he was
Brad
see-through.
Astra.
Yeah.
He wasn't see-through. His watch was. His phone was. That's what you got to have. Glass. Everybody that makes science fiction seems to think that our phones are going to be see-through in the future, which I think is Dumbsville. I think contact lens
The problem with contact lens phones,
is that you got to do this.
yeah, it's the same thing with contact lens glasses.
Yeah.
I'm not going in there.
Yeah, I immediately regret what I said because here's what I think it will be. It'll be what it is, just thinner and all screen.
Do you want me, since you regret what you said, to bleep some of it?
No, I'd like you to redact it in the transcript, but not
keep
in
it in the
audio.
video?
Yeah, keep it in the
Okay.
video and the audio.
But would people...
When you read this online,
Right.
but nicotine, like caffeine, is a
Stimulant.
Stimulant,
Yes.
and it helps me write and think. And this is so boring. I'm so sorry. I've taken us into a boring room.
You're saying what
Like
you're
I was
telling me
taking
is
you on
boring?
a tour of my house, and I opened
No.
a door, and
I'd
there was
love to
like
hear the process.
one broom.
No. How many brooms do you need?
I also stopped. I was picturing we were at a restaurant, like so we needed like 5 or 6 brooms. And there's only one.
Oh, that's on you.
Anyway, I stopped drinking. I don't really do drugs, and I wanted something that's just 0.01% naughty to do. That's right, naughty. Your girlfriend's British,
She lives in London.
and then she just picked that up like a hat.
Well, she's lived there for a while. She was born in Switzerland, Sweden.
Okay.
Then she moved to Germany, and then
Okay.
she was in Australia, and then she was in Japan, and then Australia, and then London. And let me tell you something: her arms exhausted. However, I don't know what to say what she actually is other than the love of my life.
OMG. I just thought I heard a British accent.
She's lived there for the past like 12 years.
So she snagged one.
Yeah.
At Harrods.
Yeah.
She just picked one up.
And I've been picking up some of her things.
That's
I say
fun.
taking the piss now.
Oh, yeah. You know what I say? Driving seat.
Oh.
You're in the driving seat.
Yeah.
I love that.
I have heard that, but you're saying it as far as like being in control, not who's actually driving.
Yeah. I go like, I'm in the driving seat.
Yeah.
I got it from the office, the British office. There's a lot of things that they have. I can't really think of anymore, but there's a lot that I'm like, that's great. That works. Cheers, obviously.
I say cheers.
Like when you don't know what to say.
Uh-huh.
Cheers.
Cheers was my intro into changing things up because like I can't say gracias.
Yeah.
Gracias. Right. Because it sounds like I'm trying to take something from people.
No, I understand.
But
you're
cheers.
going back in time to our British ancestors.
Yeah.
And just going like, this is mine.
Yeah. Cheers is an easy
Like the
one.
Beatles.
Cheers is I don't feel really belongs to them. I just feel like they use it more than us.
Right. We have Cheers.
We have Cheers.
We have Cheers. We have a show called Cheers.
Have you ever watched a background artist work in a bar? They're always they're always cheering.
I was just watching Succession and I was like, how did they get such good background? Because they had a guy talking with his hands right over Kendall's shoulder. There were two black men behind him and they were doing really good background acting.
Yeah.
And now, as someone who's made TV,
Sure.
I'm obsessed with just watching shit like that. And I was like, it was a crowd scene. It was on the street, like 7th Avenue in New
So
York.
there's a lot to look at.
It's like 100 background actors, and they were, mwah! The background Oscars go to those two dudes in that scene. Because 9 times out of 10, someone starts doing this, it's because they're vying for the attention of the viewer. They want to be seen.
May I cut to a clip?
Have you?
Some of my best acting is subtle acting. I was in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. What I do is put myself in a moment and live it. I'm not an actor. I am living in fiction.
And we're back.
That was Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Christmas special.
You can see someone vying?
Oh, I'm going.
You're
I'm
vying.
going to town.
You're vying.
I'm pushing DeVito out of the way.
Wait, if DeVito's in the scene, are you in the background?
I was.
And he was in the scene.
Then I pushed him aside.
Wait. Okay, I can't wait to watch my episode of this
Yeah,
podcast.
I'll send you a link to that part. I used to do background all the time, and I needed my parents to see me on TV.
Yeah, of course. I always think that. I think that more with small parts. Like somebody like Greg. Do you watch Succession?
Mm-mm.
Well, there's a character that everybody loves, and sometimes he calls his mom. And I was like, it's really interesting to me that it's a small part. What's up, dude?
This is what I was warning you about before, that every like 10 minutes I check over to make sure that the
I
red
wasn't
lights
listening. I mean, this time. I was listening last time.
So I was just doing that thing I told you about
No, I
last
got
time.
it.
Where, oh, you did hear me just now. So you were boring us about Succession?
Yeah. What I'm saying is, whenever I see somebody that has a very small part on a movie or TV show, when I was a kid, I used to be like, that's so cool. And now it makes me feel a little bit weird. Because I'm like, they were so excited. And sometimes it's cut down to like my friend Barry Rothbard was in
Love Barry
Wolf.
Rothbard.
You know Barry?
Oh, yeah.
He's great. He's
Great
in Wolf of Wall Street.
He posts about it all the time.
Does he?
Uh-huh.
As a joke?
Yes, but he treats it. I think a lot of people that follow him that don't know him think he's really bragging about
Hilarious.
the little times he's in it. But please continue.
I went seeing it thinking I'm going to see so many of my friends as we did. And Barry's line in that movie is, like, it's like, and I know he was there for the whole time.
Yeah, he was there for a while.
And again, sorry to keep saying, as someone who's edited things and made things, it's not personal. It's not that Barry isn't great. Could have been for time. It could have been for a million reasons.
May have not suited the story.
Exactly. I mean, dude, I was in the movie Her with Luca Jones, and Luca used to hang out with Joaquin Phoenix and Spike Jonze, just the two of them, to bond. That's how important their role was. Not in the movie. Me or Luca. It's fucking crazy. So when I see that, I'm not like, haha, Barry must have stunk. But I am like, shit, he was on set for like 3 months.
Right.
And
you can still see him a lot.
You do see
like
him.
around. So he's posting clips of that.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And if you're us, you're looking for that Barry.
Yes.
I call him Barreled. I think that's funny. And I love him.
Yeah.
He just had a baby.
Mazel tov. No, it's been like
Tov.
6 months now, right?
Nice Tov.
You know a lot of Jewish people. Why are you still so disrespectful? Do you think I wanted it before we go away from the background part.
I, in a million years, never would have guessed that you were going to say, "Why are you so disrespectful?"
I didn't know where I was going.
I didn't think you knew either, but there was like, I thought you were going to be like, "How are you not chosen by now?" or
Sure.
something. But you went, "How are you so disrespectful?"
Jokes are easy. It's just which way do you turn? So I throw it out there, and then what am I expecting? I would say I assume that's what they expect. So I find that a lot of times a going straight is actually where the joke is.
Yeah. Well, that's a little like post comedy.
APC.
Wow. I've never had somebody acronym me before I acronym them.
Are you a big acronymer?
Huge. You have one of those brains?
Yeah.
I do too.
IDT.
IDT. I do that as well. I'm not going to do it now.
IDTAW. O? Or W? Maybe you don't.
That's OOOW.
OOW.
That's a noise I made.
If I were to have read that, I would have thought you stubbed a toe or something.
Yeah, it looks like ow.
I want to still talk about the background thing.
Uh-huh.
You notice these people, and you're telling me funnily, but it is a real observation you made.
Yes. No, that's real.
Right. So let's say you are doing another show, and
Another one is Harry Potter, because it's kids. Dude, you could not do it. You should cut to a clip of any scene of Harry Potter where they're in the dining hall. Don't. But I'm just saying, there's 300 background actors. Those are background actors, and they're kids, and they're doing a scene. Somebody, like an unscripted, improvised, mimed scene. They're not allowed to make noise.
Right.
And they're nailing it.
they're British.
It's because they're like your girlfriend and they lived in London for 12 years, and now they're British.
British people work harder.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'll cut to a clip. I don't know what to put there. It might be a dick pill, but they aren't paying me now.
Oh, you used to do hymns for the...
What were you saying?
This is so fun. I'm having a great time.
I think
I
you're...
also laugh so hard. You're so funny. You made me
Thanks.
laugh so hard. Twice. Huge laughs. You picked me up in the car. There was a joke made. It involved Judaism. Let's not repeat it. And then we got back to the room, and you made me laugh twice before we were recording. What a funny man you are.
Is getting 2 laughs mean you're a funny man?
In 15 seconds?
Let me see how many laughs I could get in 30. I'll quit there. I don't think I'll quit there.
God.
I'll quit there. I really want to do a special in front, like, that is, like, kid, like that. That would be, because it's so easy to make kids laugh.
Is it?
Yeah, you just have to do racial shit.
So that time you went left.
Yeah, I thought that was straight.
You thought that was straight. That's not straight. Have you not hung out with a non-funny person lately? No. Straight is, you just got to make faces and stuff.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I was joking about the straight thing.
Oh, that was another joke.
Yeah,
See, I don't know how smart you are.
I
know you're wearing glasses.
You want to see how fast I can solve a Rubik's Cube?
I'm not impressed by that. That just seems like some sort of mental disability.
Unrelated. Maybe when we're done.
I'm just kidding. Can you really do a Rubik's real fast?
Yeah.
All right.
But that's not what's important. What's important is the fact that you think...
I want to know how you feel when you're doing it. I want to know.
So good.
Really?
So good. I feel like I look smart.
Yeah, but I want to know, like I talked to a kid who's like 13 and he can play, he's like a virtuoso at the piano. And I was
Same.
like, are you?
I'm real good.
No, I mean, this kid's like touring the
Name
world.
a note.
Name a note.
D sharp.
Oh, I thought you were just like, name a note.
I was, and since you weren't, I figured I would show you another skill set of mine. But I don't want to brag anymore. I'm sick of bragging. In fact, I remember you said, I just do it too well. Much. I remember on the Fred
You
Armisen...
became Robin Williams. I do it too well. Much. Ooh, yes.
Your impressions are just not good enough.
That's right.
And you have all of them.
I do.
It's like the Cheesecake Factory. Like I mean, I'll go here because there's a lot of it, but nothing is a specialty. Or as the Cheesecake Factory would say, let me hear your Cheesecake Factory impression. Yes. Almost.
Wow. What are you, a genius?
Thank you. But hold on. What?
I'm getting a very strong intelligence vibe from you.
I farted. But that's a very kind way of saying something has an odor.
Oh my God.
I must have just eaten a smart comedian.
Dane Cook. I mean, we
You
got to work on this.
You said Dane Cook.
You need to go to like rehab for sounding like Dane Cook.
You said Dane Cook.
We already have this.
Let me get out my joke.
What's that?
Let me get out the way you said Dane Cook joke.
Oh.
Because now people aren't going to remember how you said it. So
What do you mean? Go ahead.
the way you said Dane Cook
Yes. Dane Cook.
was as if you were doing Abbott and Costello's. You said it the way you would say third base.
Like who's on third base?
Yeah, you said Dane Cook. Like, oh, this is a joke we set up earlier. You know what I'm going to say. We've said it a lot. Dane Cook.
Oh my God. I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah, so
When you come, do you torgasm?
Rick Glassman, CAA. We got to get you on the pod. And yes, I found out who Dane Cook was during Torgasm when multiple people over like 2 weeks said, I sound just like Dane Cook. I'm like, who is this Dane Cook? So I looked him up.
Dane Cook.
Yeah. Who?
Dane Cook.
That's what I said.
No, I'm saying you sound like Dane Cook.
Cheers.
Oh my God.
And then I looked him up, and you know what I thought to myself?
Who is this beautiful man?
I got to eat him.
Oh my God. You're a lot of fun.
I'm going to tell you what's in my head. When somebody says that type of compliment,
The Dane Cook compliment, the DCC.
yeah, the DCC, I think to myself, do you like to sing?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You want to sing some songs?
Yes. But I want to know that I have that as an option later.
Okay.
Okay? I want you to be having a good time.
I'm having a great time.
You mean it. I want to believe it. And there's
Why
no
would-
way I could believe it unless I feel he's having a great time and then he says it and it lines up.
Who?
Dane Cook.
You want me to say I'm having a great time in concert with Dane Cook?
No. I mean, yes, but it's a completely different conversation. I want to watch you up there playing your instrument and then saying, I'm having a good time, Dane's playing. But when somebody says, because we don't really know each other.
No.
And the way I took you coming onto this podcast was
Will be.
definitely will be a favor.
A favor.
You know, like, oh, that's awesome. This is like a cool guest that's coming over. And also it's like you're coming to my place.
I get that feeling when I have people on my podcast too. You're like, there's people that do it and you're sort of like, isn't this nice of me? And then there's times where you're like, isn't this nice of you?
I have yet to have it. Isn't this nice of me? I will, but I've been this is about right.
You've had
and isn't this nice of
Jeremiah on?
Jeremiah's coming on this weekend.
That's isn't it nice of you?
I don't think so. Oh, you're burning them.
I'm Krasinskiing.
Thanks for coming over.
It's my pleasure. It is.
I still want to know, you see these background artists, they're really good. You're doing a show. Is there a world where you find those guys and have them come on as background, as featured background, and you go up to them and let them know, hey, I just want you to know that I specifically asked for you because of the work that you did. And I'm not sure if being background is a career that you want to start something else or it's a fun way to make money and it is what it is. But I want you to know it went noticed.
I mean, what a beautiful world. When I'm rested and like happy, which is a lot of the time, but sometimes I'm working a lot, I have ideas like that where I'm like, we need to like celebrate these people. They don't know. Like I watched Inception and they nailed it. I wish I could tell them. Because sometimes you forget, just like I was thinking about when I was in Chicago starting doing stand-up, how just a good stand-up, none of us had done anything on TV, but if a good stand-up complimented me,
Right.
my feet wouldn't touch the ground for like a month. And then I was like, well, I've done some stuff, so why not give that? But then it gets masked in humility. You don't want to be like, it matters, because I've had that happen too, where
You're saying humility as in you don't want to, your compliments aren't worth anything.
No, the humility ruins it. The humility becomes my filter to stop me from complimenting somebody because I don't want them to think that I'm like, isn't it cool that I'm complimenting?
That's what I was
you?
saying.
Yeah, okay. So I don't say anything. But I've also had to go the other way. Sometimes with the younger comics, I don't know if they like me or know me or give a fuck. Because,
May I?
Yes, please.
Start jerking off.
I mean, I said yes. I should have asked what
Compliments,
you wanted to do.
compliments, like critique, like gifts, like acts of service, anything. If your intention is to do whatever it is you're doing, in this case, giving the information, the flattery, and you have no expectation of what they're going to say back to you or what you want them to say back to you or you don't want them to say back to you, you'll never lose.
It's what we call a mitzvah.
It's what we call a mitzvah. Baruch Hashem, shall we all just realize we speak to others the way we want to be speaking to others and not the way we want them to speak to us, because that's manipulative.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There's stuff in Zen about that too, where it's like you do things for the sake of goodness, like not because of a reward, not because of any sort of judgment, not because of any sort of perception. I can find that very challenging as a mammal, because a lot of our goodness is, especially as comedians, more when you're coming up than later in life. But as comedians, everything is sort of like, has like not an ulterior motive, but like we're in the foxhole together.
But that's not a problem.
It's not a problem. It's fine.
I think
It just is what it is.
But if I'm giving to you because it makes me feel good and I'm pretending that's not why,
Yeah.
then sure. But like, yeah, I want to.
No, I know. I'm with you.
Okay.
I wish I had the energy to look up. I will say, and it doesn't give me joy to say this, a lot of background actors are...
Real quick, say it in a silly voice. It may give you joy.
Okay. A lot of background actors... This is me, Bobcat Goldthwait. Is this...
Almost.
Fuck you, man. It is.
Yeah, that's good.
No, it's almost.
Yeah.
It's 78.
I thought you were doing an almost.
It's like a 78er percenter.
Yeah.
If that.
Nat.
I'm saying or lower.
You know. And
okay.
Your humility is getting in the way of your percentages
That's
again.
true. It's like a
YHIGITWOYPA.
Ooh, very good. VG.
Thank you.
That's all I do. I only do two
Yeah.
word ones.
Or the ones we already know, OMG.
Yeah.
Like you did earlier.
ASAP. OMG. I wasn't intending that to count. ITT. Well, you got it. AC.
AC.
TC. Two count. Intending that to count. That's ITTTC.
We'll put it on a shirt. It'll
get
be $80.
And there's only one. And we sell it to Dane Cook. He's got it. He's got it. Mm-hmm. He's got it.
But the background actors.
Actually, I really like Dane. I want that on the record.
Great. You got it. We'll bleep who we said he liked. But we'll let people read the lips. We'll keep it on the one shot. Let people decide. What do you think he said there? Do you think he said I like? What do you think he said in the comments?
Well, this ties back to what we're talking about. When people come up and you talk about them, it's very helpful to just take a moment and be like, I really like Dane.
Yeah.
Just for people to know.
Yeah.
Because I've had that bite me in the butt.
It's like a
before.
reaction shot. We need to know what the other person's thinking.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just something that says this is well intentioned. Because I've watched people talk about me and I'm like, do they hate me?
Right.
And,
What's the
and no matter
subtext of
how
this?
big you are, Dane is as big as it gets pretty much. And then it's like, he's still going to be a comic and sensitive. And he's like, do these two shitbags.
I'm going to title this
Not
episode,
like me.
and I normally don't title episodes, so
Clickbait.
I'm probably not going to.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Nirvana's Nevermind?
I was going to title it Pete Holmes Likes Dane Cook, and I'm going to do you naked in a pool chasing a dollar.
I like that with a big old ding dong.
Yeah, that would be funny to change that picture. It's still a baby, but to have it have a huge
yeah,
cock.
that is-
And it'll be easy to Photoshop because you could just do a blur.
That's troubling. I was just talking to somebody about that.
About the baby having a big cock?
No, about the baby and how they perceive that. I was like, the baby is chasing the dollar. And somebody I knew was like, no, the baby, they had like another interpretation. The baby, it's not chasing the dollar. The baby, I don't even know what it was. I think they're wrong. Anyway, giving praise, that's something I do it on stage. I'll just find somebody in the audience and I'll be like, I'm not joking, that's a great shirt. And I go, it's weird. I'm interested in the ways that like magic, I just like that word, Harry Potter.
So what were you saying?
This is fun.
You're saying almost.
Oh my God.
Nazi Venya.
I've made a career out of 73%.
I would say 78.
My stand-up is not 78%.
What is it?
For me, it's 100%.
Good.
But that's for me. I don't mean the audience. I don't mean other people. I'm doing exactly the stand-up that I'm like, this motherfucker. I say it all the time. If I was in the crowd for me, I would love it.
Yeah.
Is that? Oh, I thought you were teasing me.
No, that was
I would
you
love it.
watching you.
In
Like,
fact,
oh.
I have stand-up specials that are old enough that I can watch them and not remember the bits. And I'm like, this guy, he's exactly my sense of humor. And if you're not doing that, you're not there as a stand-up. You got some.
What if I am doing that, but nobody agrees?
That's fine.
Is it?
Yeah. Then when you're dead, well, I'll be like, this motherfucker was a genius.
I think about that.
And Betty will get all the royalties.
Yeah. Royalties for what, though?
I don't know. I don't want to be
Stand-up royalties?
Hilarious.
I'm not going to put in any clips though.
Hilarious.
That's just me doing beat poetry. I was just getting ready to.
Oh my!
I don't go up. I stand. I stay.
Stand up. Shut up. Move it to the right.
That's the cadence
Yeah.
from So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yes. Also, Eric Andre does fake slam, but you're saying
I do real
Whoa,
slam.
man!
Yeah. Whoa.
You do real slam?
I do.
I actually don't mind it. I mean, I don't know if it's put down often, but every time somebody posts a Facebook, like this guy murders it, and I watch it, I cry every time.
The soul inside my mind is hardened.
Yeah. Is this a real one? I don't want to interrupt if it's real.
It seems like that you were dying to.
Yeah. Hard as in difficult. My dick is hard. I mean, not easy. Easy going, coming, yes. Too quickly, often apologies.
To apologize to me is divine, yet to put it to lyric, to rhyme, it takes the time to find a lack, not of Bradley 40 ounce, but of sublime. Instincts, lists, a third thing in fact. I have white on the walls with humorous splat. The stains of my mind are ingrained in my thigh, but my pants will not hide the lack of respect, faith, to believe is to be. Leave.
I was going to do the same. No, I was going to
Do your Lee Shriver almost.
Ray Donovan. Dude, I was going to say, to believe the church. Find it, seek it, lose it, weep it. Like some of them are questions.
Right, when it's a question, it's to let everyone know. They need to be like, oh.
Well, they do that in rap too, where they go, get it?
Yeah.
What, there's a great...
They do in comedy. They go, see what I did there?
Yeah, of course.
But I'm sorry.
That's right. We all have those little cues.
I don't do them.
But rap needs it more. Eminem has that lyric where he goes, I've got a couple of mansions, still I don't have any manners. But he means manner. M-A-N-O-R.
Yeah.
Manners. I know you get it, you fucking Jeff Goldblum genius. But some of us don't know how to clone dinosaurs. I know you don't feel bad about it. You seem to be doing fine. You got to frame just your bank balances.
Yeah, my Bitcoin balances from a couple of years ago, maybe.
Ooh, if you had one Bitcoin.
I got a lot of Bitcoin.
You do?
Yeah.
See, what are you doing?
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
I'm
Get out of here.
Yeah, that's right. You have a lot of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I got into it a bit ago. And
I thought it blew up a while ago.
yeah, and I was in it before that.
Oh, you were?
And I went to London. My hours are fine. I get it. Haha, we have fun. And I didn't bring my hardware wallet, which is where you keep your coins. So I'm in London and it's going fucking mental. I'm literally pretend I didn't put that much into it originally. So I feel like numbers are okay because it was unearned revenue at the time. Literally making over $20,000 a day for weeks. I had $80,000 days. It was nutso. And I know it's a lot of money for anybody, but that is it got to a point where I started being like, oh, could I get a house?
Yeah.
You know, like I was
Does
looking.
this end where you go like, but then I couldn't sell it in
Couldn't
time?
sell it because I wasn't there. And by the time
Because your wallet was at home?
because my wallet's at home. And I tried to get people who could come over after a couple of times of them missing the landlord and also me thinking it's going to be so hard for me to explain. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. It's going to be so hard to explain how to transfer these to where I need them to go. So I figured I'll be home in a few weeks. I could do it. And by the time I got home, it had gone down so much where I'm like, I'm not going to sell it yet. And it was still up a lot.
Yeah.
And then anyway.
Is it back up?
I mean, it's a significant amount of money still, but it's not a house money. It's I pretended I lost it a while ago. I'm leaving it for a while.
Best to put it out of your mind.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
You know, I do okay with that kind of stuff.
Do you good?
I do okay. I do. I have a good ability to limit expectations of things.
I love that. How about you do an audition? You're great. I love you. I think you're great.
Thanks.
The second I met you, I was like, who's this motherfucker? I think you're great.
Is this in the audition?
This is real.
Oh, I thought you were saying in an audition.
No. So what? You're rushing me through the compliment?
What do you say?
That's a real comic. Get back to the bit.
Yeah. I'm great. But what were you saying that's funny? Because I think I do something like that. What does your Russian producer say? He goes,
Igor?
He goes, we don't have to leave. We don't have to turn around or.
Company move.
Company move. When you said rushing, I was thinking of that.
Dude, somebody from Crashing. So I have this producer that I like to do an impression of.
Right.
And it was about, everything was a secret. He was always like, listen, we're going to, like, we'd be shooting where this painting is and or this photograph is. And he'd always be trying to, he's a phenomenal producer.
Sure.
And as a phenomenal producer, he'd always be wary of the money and wary of the time. So he'd be like, speak one thing, definitely we don't have to turn the cameras around. We'll just do a green screen at the office. We'll get out of here. Then we can avoid a company move. We don't have to. So it was fine. It was just for me. A lot of the things on the podcast, it's like, this is silly fun time.
Sure. SFT.
Just do it for me. SFT. And then somebody isolated the audio and sent it to him. Well, I don't need this in my life.
You know what? Had that clip started with, what's his name?
Igor,
who, by the way, I love so much.
I think I did.
Oh, well, then you're fine.
But still, you're going, company move. I also mentioned that he name drops a lot, which is true.
Well,
he's always like Leif Schreiber. Leif Schreiber is exactly who he would say. He'd be like, I'm having a party, and Zach Braff is going to be there. And then there'd always be like weird
Why
ones.
was Leif Schreiber the one that he was definitely going to say? And
I'm
then
pretty
then
sure-
you put an alt in with Zach Braff. The psychology of that.
I don't want to bore you. Yeah, novelty.
So you already said Leif Schreiber. It already worked. Let me give another example.
Yes.
That's good.
Welcome to comedy. I mean, I know you know this.
Thank you.
But that's a helpful tip. It's like we could, like those videos, I'm interested in, there's YouTube videos. I haven't really watched them, but there's ones that are like, how to be more confident. There should be one that's just like basics of being funny. If I've already said Leif Schreiber, change it up. Say it to a second one.
But a lot of people will
It's how
argue.
to trick people into thinking you're interesting.
People will argue saying, this is a critique that I got. I was on a multicam for a few years.
Which one?
It's called Undateable.
Don't trust the bee? After you've already said it?
Yes.
See, I think that's really funny.
Yes.
It was called Undateable. Don't trust the bee?
Yeah. And I had my boss from that show, Bill Lawrence. He was on. I mean, who knows when this is airing, but he just came out this week, and we had a conversation about it. And he was. The biggest thing I struggle with stand-up is I did it and it worked. I'm lying if I keep doing it. And there's a fine line between keeping things. You talked about this with Fred Armisen, and I would love if we have time to get into that because your appreciation for what he does, same. And I was like, really, I'm listening to a podcast, like actually being like, no, I need to hear.
Yeah.
That's information I want. I'm not just being entertained.
Yeah.
And you never got to it. You kept talking over him. But no, I'm just kidding.
That sounds right.
No. In that episode, you said, I'm
I
already reading the
guarantee we
comments
got
saying
to
that
it.
I'm talking too much.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, I'm always thinking that.
Yeah.
Such a funny, not at all, but like such a.
No, but I think maybe you and I are similar in that, like, depending on the mood I'm in, I'll either be like, I'm sorry I'm interrupting so much. I'll literally try to stop, or I'll just be like, this is it, man. We've been doing it 400 blah, blah episodes, and it's just like.
You're saying you've accepted I talk.
And sometimes I'll just be like, I know this person was on Chris Hardwick's podcast. If you want to hear just them tell some fucking story. Are you looking it up?
No.
Hilarious.
My phone was ringing.
I love it. Was it Betty Draper?
No.
So you were
Any more guesses? Maybe Zach Braff? Now is it funny to repeat Zach Braff because
Yes.
it's a callback, even though
Yes.
it's not the first Draper?
What if you had said James Earl Jones? Who cares? That's boring.
Really? James Earl Jones is here? I mean, the perfect call. If I've ever needed James Earl Jones, and I have, it's for that bit. Just the lack of production value of using him.
So funny.
And to not bring him out when you sung Lion King wrong, you know?
Well, the reason why callbacks and stuff can be appealing to an audience is because they show that the performer is paying attention.
Yeah.
The audience is paying attention, and there can be a misuse of that trust because you're not even paying attention.
You talked about this on a podcast where something about a recent special of yours that you said that your opener and your producer, who am I speaking of?
It wasn't Igor, but
Well, let's say Zach Braff.
okay, ZB.
And he said that, remember, these jokes work because you're there.
Yeah, that's right.
And I feel like that's...
Oh, Chris Thayer. Chris Thayer helped me with that special. He
What special was it?
This was Dirty Clean. He helped me with both of my HBO specials. But there's something about realizing that part of the mechanism of the humor is your presence, is that you're like going. Somebody, it wasn't mean and it wasn't wrong, but they mentioned that at the beginning of Dirty Clean, I go out and there's like an awkward moment where it seems like I've forgotten how to do stand-up. And I was like, that's interesting. It really did not hurt my feelings. But I was like, don't they know we kept that in on purpose?
Right.
Like
No,
basic.
they don't know that.
They don't. They think we're just like, well, that's what we have. Like it's literally 3 seconds of just me kind of looking at the audience. But that's that important moment. I was just at the Laugh Factory. Hopefully this is interesting to you and the listeners. But I was at the Laugh Factory and it was a rough one. I would say that if the other comics were in the room, everyone knew it was a rough one. And this is actually the dream setup for a stand-up is if the show's going badly and then you go up and turn the room. That's one of the biggest thrills you can get. And the way that I turned the room was simply by going up on stage. It was New Year's Eve, right?
So January 30th.
Yes. And nobody hit
December 30th. You just said yes.
Yeah, I don't care.
Whatever. This wasn't even the Laugh Factory. I don't even know where this is going.
No, it is important that it was December 30th.
Yes.
And I went up on stage and it was a packed house and nothing was really working. Very funny comics weren't really connecting. And it's not what I said, it's that I said something. That is like some deep, I think.
You mean it's the acknowledgement, not what you acknowledge. Yeah.
That's right. It's the acknowledgement. It's the giving of presents. So I went up and I was
The
like,
real GOP.
Is it like, I was like, why are we out on New Year's Eve? Like, isn't there like, I just said, there was nothing really funny about it. I was just like, there's like a feeling in the room. We're all kind of like, what the hell are we doing here?
And
we're drinking the night before New Year's. And just saying that, and sometimes I'll just literally say, I'm here. Like, I'm not just doing my shit. I'm here. Then they'll love the bits because you established you're on a date with someone who's listening to you. There's a great line in Mad Men where he's like, when you're trying to sell someone something, and in like a crude way, a comedian is trying to sell a joke. I don't really look at it that way, but on some level, that's what's happening. And it's Roger Sterling. He goes, when you sit down with a client, you treat it like a date. Look at them, listen, act like you don't have anywhere else to be in the world. And I was like, that's a good stand-up too. A stand-up goes, I don't have anywhere else to be in the world. I like to say, even if it's not true, this is all I have to do today. Like, I'm so glad this is going well. This is all I have to do today. And just telling them, it's just, I do the same thing with my wife. I'm so glad you're with me. I'm so glad to be on a date. But it goes back to what we were saying about compliments and spells and magic, which before we did the mustache thing.
Compliments, spells, and magic.
The real magic of saying, even if you don't, like BJ Novak just did my podcast, it's not out yet. And he was making fun of people that say 100%, right? And I was like, BJ, and he kept saying it, even though I knew he didn't mean it, he was doing it to make fun of them. Every time he said it, I liked it. So similarly, we can cast.
Say that differently. I didn't understand.
What I'm saying is saying 100%, like you're saying something and I go, 100%.
I know that. I understand.
Right.
But who doesn't like what? He doesn't like when people say that.
Yes.
But
so he was saying it facetiously, yet it still worked. It's like if I was like, I'm about to lie to you. That's a great shirt.
Thank you.
Right? It still kind of works. If I said every time I
So you're
compliment
saying it works? It works for what though?
It made me feel good. It made me feel like he
you're
was
saying
engaged.
even though he was saying 100% and didn't mean it, you were like, oh, he is here 100%. I understand that.
Because we're stupid. So what I'm like, there's a part of us that's just kind of simple, and that's why advertising.
I don't think that's why you like it.
Well, tell me what.
I think you like it for the same reason that you went from the story of callbacks to we went to going being present on stage, which is people want to hear something they've heard before.
That might be true.
And he's saying 100%. 100%, he's not saying, I 100% agree with you, and you're like, oh, he 100% agrees or understands me. You're hearing him saying 100%. He confided in you in something he didn't like. He is now playing with you. So every time he does that, you're hearing connection.
That's true. But the choice of his tool for connection happens to be synonymous with, I agree with you, I'm listening, and you're great.
Because the choice of his comedy, should I say choice, is to be a little cynical and observational.
Sure.
So you're connecting with him on his talent.
That's right.
100%.
But if he had picked Go Fuck Yourself as his callback, I would have still been like, oh, he's being playful, he's calling back, and he's listening, but it wouldn't have felt as good.
Okay.
He happened to choose something affirming. So what I'm saying...
This is the first time I've ever realized I'm right.
That is
What
funny.
I just said holds, and your example didn't.
I felt very rabbinical just then. We were debating the Talmud. And I mean that as a compliment. I just saw you.
How can I take that as an insult?
I saw you. I know. But
Debating Talmud is, oh, you saying I look bad?
there's just something. I think that might be why Jewish people have it in their blood to be funny, is because of the way I don't know how to say it, the specificity with which people would tear apart and restructure the Old Testament, the Talmud, the
And that's
Torah.
part of the culture now is a deconstruction of
Maybe.
the scripture.
I think that just encouraged intelligence, it encouraged like discourse and debate, and that is always very funny. Seinfeld says that like doing comedy is like doing algebra proofs, but for something absurd.
I've never heard that. I love that because I'm convinced there's 8 jokes and there's all the variables. And it's just like we were talking about going left versus going straight. Saying I was wrong or I was right is the same joke. It's just one is the inverse of the other.
So funny.
Thank
But
you.
not all jokes are like that. That's whenever it comes to joke theory, we already were talking about it with the Fred Armisen or with what Chris Thayer said. Sometimes the joke is that is what you picked as the joke. And that is the violation. They talk about jokes being benign violations. So instead of saying that's when I realized I was wrong, you said I was right.
Right.
So that's a violation, but it didn't hurt anybody.
Explain to me how it's a violation because it's an anti-joke?
You're going against what was expected.
But isn't that one of the few devices of jokes is going it's a misdirect?
That's what I'm saying. All jokes, this is the theory, all jokes are benign violations.
Oh, I understand now. I thought you were saying that joke was a violation.
No.
You're saying jokes inherently
I'm saying jokes are benign violations,
Yeah.
and therefore your joke was a benign violation. But sometimes what I want to add to that theory, which I partially agree with, there is something a little bit unspoken, which is sometimes the violation is that you're not telling a joke that's a benign violation.
Which would be, like I said, going straight.
That's right. That's the only thing when I hear scientific people trying to go in and break down what a joke is, they sometimes lose that Steve Martin putting an arrow on his head ironically. There's a lot of violations going on more than just a man shouldn't have an arrow through his head, and they would agree with me.
There was a joke that I did when I first started doing stand-up.
You do stand-up?
And then he'll look like an idiot.
Any cast member from Seinfeld has ever gone down on a woman and gone, tung, 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 tung. Okay, with the legs, get out of here. Tung, 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 tung. I'm going to try that.
Well, would you mind sending it to me on phone? We'll cut to a clip.
Tung, 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 tung.
You gotta say, and we're back?
And we're back.
Thanks.
And we're back.
Well, now we laughed. Stop. I have an OCD thing that whenever there's a snap, like I didn't catch that somebody snapped. And while I'm editing, I'm like, fuck. And I have to go away until the next.
I had an OCD when I was a kid where I thought I had to touch everything twice because I thought it was dirty. So when I touched it, does this make sense? OCD sense?
I still have it.
If I touched it, I'd have to touch it again to get it back.
To get it back is in like justice or to give back what you took from it?
It's like Qbert. I'm turning the tile yellow.
Yeah.
And then I want to put it back to its original.
So what
state.
happened to you? This would cause me a lot of anxiety. If you're walking by and somebody touches you, you have to touch them back, right?
I hear that. I don't have
Thank you.
OCD. Yeah, I do hear that. Chris Farley used to spin in one direction and have to spin back to unspin
I didn't know that,
himself.
but yeah.
Stand-ups are compulsive people.
Yeah.
I'm a compulsive person. I don't have OCD, but there are, and when I look at my childhood, there was a lot of stress that I didn't know quite what to do with. And I also just remember, not to be too, I don't know, Dr. Phil on this show, but when
Why don't you actually be very Dr. Phil on the show?
Okay. I remember that when I learned about pooping, I couldn't believe that we just wipe our ass with thin paper. Just because you wipe your ass with paper doesn't mean you're a brontosaurus. So it disturbed me as a child that we're pooping.
Dr. Phil?
It disturbed me as a child to poop and then just wipe it with paper and then you just wash your hands. There's no like checks or balances. Like you might have dirty hands.
Well, if you wash your hands, wouldn't that be the balance?
Well, isn't that a common OCD?
Dr. Phil?
Okay, I'm doing it. Isn't that a common OCD that you have to keep washing your hands? Because it's a gray thing. People just wash their hands and go like, I got it. I got it. I'm taking it off.
Okay.
If I have to be Phil when I'm wearing it.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Close. It wasn't bad. With the stash, had he had a better jawline, you would have looked more like him.
He's got a great jaw.
I was just doing a ball joke. I never noticed his jaw.
Oh, okay. Fuck fat guys with flat chests and good. What? What?
You don't want it. I forgot to set it up, but as much you said you forgot it was in a restaurant, I forgot to say, I want to live in a world where it's just become taboo to talk about
That
fat guys with good jawlines.
hilarious. for a second I was like, oh, there's a thing on this podcast, don't say fat, because fat isn't quite okay, I guess. Although there was a good NPR where an overweight person said, don't call me overweight. What is weight? Fuck you, I'm fat.
What do you mean, what is weight? Is that...
Well, it's presumptuous to say you're overweight, meaning weight is...
He is. He's overweight.
You're funny.
Yeah, he's overweight.
See, this is the benign violation. You're taking a firm stance over somebody's sensitivity.
So you're saying that having a strong point of view is a benign violation?
Absolutely.
So am I telling you a joke when I say that I'm the man and I got a huge hog? There's nothing funny about that.
That's very funny.
Thank you.
And you're also not supposed to talk about your hog, but it's benign.
Right.
You putting your dick on me is not benign, and it's not, I mean, it could be funny depending on how well we know each other.
Or what type of comedy blur we do.
Yeah, you're right. Borat.
Yes.
What were we saying, though?
I think we were talking about
washing hands and shit on your hands.
Yeah. I think about that all the time when I sit down, and I clean the seat first, and then I flush, so whatever I cleaned is gone, and whatever was in the toilet was gone.
That's a little bit wasteful, but yeah.
Tell that to the judge.
Okay.
Or is it tell it to the judge?
Tell it to the judge.
Tell it to the judge. Excuse me. But I then take paper and I do a double fold, so there's 4 things, as if this is saving me. And I sit down and I think to myself...
Well, you do a paper rim of 4 folds?
No, I do one paper rim of just a regular, like a fold.
1 ply.
And then I sit on 4 ply, so 2 folds.
I see.
And now I'm thinking to myself, if somebody were under me with a gun, they wouldn't be able to get through. Like, that's the confidence I have in a few little sheets of toilet paper.
Uh-huh.
But that's nothing.
What do you mean? It's like wiping the pizza grease off your pizza. People are like, does that work? I'm like, there's oil off the pizza.
But,
yeah, it
but
works.
if you were trying to get less grease,
yes,
I get it.
Yeah.
But if you were making yourself believe there's now going to be no grease on this pizza, I'm getting all the grease off. It's like, you're not getting all the grease off. You're not getting all the butt off the toilet seat.
Yeah, but why are we worried about butts? If I push my butt up against your butt and we're both clean butted,
If you go into my bathroom,
I wouldn't feel the need. I did.
And you take a shit.
I will.
I'm sorry. You took a shit. And then I go in there and I sit down. Maybe I'll wipe, maybe I won't. It's fine. I know whose butt was there.
I see.
I trust this butt.
You're worried about,
this butt
like-
has a blue check.
I see. Ooh, verified butt.
VB. But with 1 T, if I don't know who was in there, if I went into your house and you had roommates,
Yeah.
I would probably put
Wipe.
something down.
I knew a girl that used to bring alcohol into the bathroom and wipe it down.
What happened to her? And do you have her Instagram? Can we put it up?
Yeah. Here's the best thing I can tell you. That one of the best things my therapist, Dr. Gary Penn, told me.
Show me as him.
Well, when he sits, he actually tucks. It's very weird. He tucks. I can't even do it. He's such a small man. And he goes like this. It's very nice. He goes, I can't do an impression of him, but he goes, who cares?
Right.
That's my impression of him, which is what a good therapist often will do. You'll be like, I'm worried that I'm whatever. And he goes, who cares? If you're not hurting anybody.
So
you're
do
not
you think
hurting
he's
yourself.
what that is offering you perspective?
Often, but here's what he says: is he goes, neurotic people are right, paranoid people are right, like logically they're right.
But
But
there
then
aren't
he
as
says-
many stakes to it.
And this isn't necessarily okay, I guess maybe to say for some people, but he goes, just don't be its bitch. Like there's like this thing that you have to go like his example, and I'm giving you premium therapy. I pay a lot of money for this man. He goes, it's okay if I sit down and I move this here and it just makes me feel better. Mm-hmm. As Richard Rohr says, sometimes like you feel because now I've made the space mine. You know what I mean? Like I've imposed myself on the space. It makes me feel more comfortable. He's like, that might be fine. But there's something about just going like, it's okay there.
Yeah.
And when it comes to all the things we can worry about, I actually get comfort in realizing how many things there are to worry about. Like meaning the more I can hypothesize to worry about, the more calm I am. Because you go like, what if my heart stops? Let's say we have heart anxiety. I used to. Because it's weird that we have this thing that runs on an unseen... Let's not even talk about it.
I'm fine skipping past it. I hear you.
Right?
Yeah.
But don't think about it, right? That's like a cliche. You get high and you're like, what's doing it? That's a valid concern. You know what else is? We're floating in infinity. What's to say that the scale of the universe isn't completely off? Meaning we're the size of a grape. And there's a giant who just hasn't yet swung his hand this way and wiped out everything. I feel
Interesting that you would see the giant as banging and ruining grapes as opposed to eating them.
I saw it is so small. Well, maybe I was thinking smaller than a grape. I put the mustache back on.
Right.
But what I'm saying is when we go, like, how would we know if a meteorite that was moving faster than we've ever known and is bigger than the Earth? And I guess
By this, you don't believe in the law
classified
of the cosmos and of physics. And I understand some things are misunderstood or not yet known, but a comet is not going faster than the speed of light.
You mean we would see it coming?
Yeah.
But we would still be fucked. Isn't it possible that something could come out
Well,
of
we opened this podcast talking about Bruce Willis. Maybe we could call him back.
hilarious?
Thank
As Dan
you.
Cook.
Thank you. Okay.
And talk-
I don't know how to do that.
you're doing
Apparently,
it.
I just sound like, okay.
Yeah. You just have to say,
Well,
more synonyms.
okay.
Dan is very good at synonyms.
Well, let's just say that it was boisterous of, I don't know. That's
great.
But he would say boisterous.
I was feeling very boisterous.
Yeah, boisterous. Boisterous.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Brian Regan does that too. One of my faves.
He also does this. But if the comet is coming, Bruce Willis would come along and talk
drill
about his
into
headaches
it.
or something.
Hilarious.
You say hilarious like Ian Edwards, where I go like, I know he means it.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, are you letting me know?
Yeah, 100%. See what I did?
100%.
Manners.
Yeah. Oh, right. You were talking about that. How you said, I left it in the special. You talked about at the beginning of your special. I left that in. That was intentional.
Yeah.
And I was thinking.
Now you're hosting.
Thank you.
As the guest, I take a break from remembering the irons in the fire.
Oh, I feel like you have an iron in the fire mind.
I do, but I'm being more relaxed.
I made you say
now.
I do, but. Do you remember what people used to give people
No,
by
I've
making
never
them?
had that. I do.
Really?
But no.
Well, not that one, but people just say, I made you say underwear.
I like that very much.
Do you not know that one?
No. I don't know that one.
You'll remember. Just look at it.
I know doo-doo. Every time I say doo-doo, one of the things I do, and then I'll keep. I don't care.
Homer.
I could be in a meeting with lawyers, and I'd
That's the one.
doo-doo. I'm trying to think
out
of
of all the things I wouldn't want to say doo-doo.
No, I just mean like a business meeting,
Yes.
like an important meeting. No, I've never been in one. Let me know how those go.
They go a little something
Like
this.
Now I'm sitting there.
Let's say I don't have an answer. You ask me something and I don't know. I have no problem saying I don't know. But what I will say is I could find out for you.
Are you rewinding?
I'm coincidentally, maybe with a little license, putting myself in a business situation that was pursuit of happiness.
See. You just folded in every layer of the calzone.
Well, I know that you love irons in the fire.
I do. And yes, so I left it in on purpose because I think the reason why people go to see stand-up, and I'm going to say that for fun, the number one mistake comedians make, in my opinion, is not being there. So they're just doing their comedy at the audience when really the audience is listening so intently that the gift we give back to them is listening to how they laugh. So you do the joke, how they're giving you all of this feedback, all this tension, all of these noises, all these claps, all these woos, whatever it might be.
Sounds like you're doing well.
It's going great up here. Up here? You listen to them as much as they're listening to you, or more.
I struggle with getting a set on tape. Anything that I have that was taped, it's not it. Because I don't know how to capture that thing that you're talking about, which is the only reason why I get laughs is because playing with and observing the energy in a room and manipulating it or heightening it or whatever the game may be, it's that. And getting it on camera, it never works for me.
Yeah, that's how I understand.
And I thought about, do I need more reaction shots? I don't know how to do it.
Buddy, I feel like the hard answer is if you're trying to make a tape or do a special, you need to walk the line of how much of that is beneficial to the viewing audience and how much of it is just jerking off for that audience.
I understand.
So it's not even jerking off. It's like jerking them off. So it's a great thing to do. But there are a lot of moments that I wanted to keep in my last special that were riffing, that like something went wrong, and I love that stuff.
Right.
But you go like, this is for the people at home.
But it's not just a riff. I'm not talking about crowd work or improvisation. I'm talking about certain performances that...
Well, then that should read.
This is I
just feel like I would read it. If I watched you doing your set in a way that I, as a home viewer, could be included.
I think that you would.
Yeah.
I think that you would. I think for the same reason that you thought people watching you at the beginning, they didn't know that you put it in there on purpose.
Yes.
The people that go, yeah, because he doesn't have manners. I did a web series. I've talked about this on the podcast before. It's called The Sixth Lead. I was the sixth lead on my network sitcom. I had nothing to do. I made a little series in it. And everyone played themselves, and we filmed the fake multicam scene, and the actors are playing the actors, the writers, So it looks like reality. It's Curb, right? I did a bad Curb Your Enthusiasm. And at the end, it says written and directed by Rick Glassman. And still people are messaging me as if these things are real, not even asking me, but referencing them. And that sucks that he did that. And I'm like, I think you're funny, and you're
hilarious.
Not you. No, it says.
It would be like if people emailed Larry David and it was like, I can't believe your wife said that to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So people watching don't know. So the benefit you have of doing that live is people don't need to know if you're doing it on purpose or not. You want them to think you're not, even when you are. They're feeling it.
Right.
But when it's on tape, they're watching an edit. And they're putting their own subtext that is different, for better or worse, than what was in the room.
What you're doing, I just think, needs to be big enough that the audience can be involved in it.
Okay.
And it sounds to me like maybe the problem you're explaining might be solved with a bigger audience or like a bigger production.
Sure, a bigger audience. That's the problem.
What I'm saying is the nuance of like 50 or 150 people is different than the.
I will say,
500.
I tend to tape. The rooms where you get your tapes are smaller rooms.
Yeah.
And things that I've had from bigger rooms are still now I'm not happy with them. But it's like I'm proud of them. I think I'm funny in it. I just feel like it's not enough funny.
You
but yeah, I
also
think a
might
bigger room.
benefit from somebody that's just like the thing above your bathroom that says, "No, realize how good you really are," or whatever. You might be one of those people that's so funny that you're so neurotic. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm just saying,
how would you say it as an insult?
You're so Jewish that like you're so fat with a flat chest and a good jaw. You're not fat then. If you just have a belly, that was my point.
Right, a belly is only how small your chest is.
A belly is only how small your chest is.
He's not fat. He just has a sunken chest. You see these strong guys with these huge chests and these bellies that come out and there's six packs on it. If you get rid of that chest, he's a fat guy.
Oh, interesting. What I'm saying though is somebody who struggles with man boobs, like if Bert Kreischer takes his shirt off, which I think Bert is great. I'm not like, oh, how vulnerable. I'm just like, yeah, you're like a good looking shirtless fat guy. If you have titties, then you take it off now.
Oh, does he not? I don't know him.
Bert does not have titties.
So you're saying being fat without tits
is not vulnerable.
Unless you're a woman.
That's right.
And that's the difference.
And that's when to grow on.
When to what?
Grow on. How old are you?
35 today.
You should know that. It's your birthday?
No. But people assume that when you say today, it's their birthday. They also assume a rest in peace is for a death. And I think we need to change that.
Rest in peace.
May you rest in peace every night.
Yeah.
And be 35 for 365 days.
I'd like to rest in peace today, right now. It's a real problem. I remember when I was trying to record my first it was my first stand-up CD. No, it was my second. And there was this great show in New York. I don't know if it's still happening, but it was called Whiplash. And I was like, okay, I want to do an hour CD, but it's hard to find places to go up for an hour. Mm-hmm. But I want the CD to be perfect. So I'm going to record 4 15-minute sets at Whiplash. So I set up these microphones. And
the second 15 minutes taking place after the first 15.
Yeah, it would blend.
There might be callbacks from the beginning that people are missing.
I wasn't planning on that, but yeah, we would just blend it into 1 hour. And name drop, or as the Brits would say, pennies dropped. Zach Galifianakis was backstage, as he often was, and I was telling him my plan, and he gave me advice that really changed my life that I think applies to what you're saying. And he was like, "Don't try so hard." Mm. There's a certain point where you realize that stand-up is stand-up, and let it be what it is, and you're watching it, and you might be the worst person to gauge whether or not it's working.
I love the idea of not trying so hard. I've been doing stand-up for 12 years. The past 2, I've been good at it. Uh-huh. I have had great sets before, but like I got lucky. Like now I know if I needed to, if someone were watching or if there's an audition and I wasn't just taking huge swings, I know I'm fine. I could do this. And in the past year of that, I've decided to try a lot harder. I think my problem was as your therapist would say, who gives a shit? And that was part of what the limiting expectations thing was, where I have certain things that I have such control over that it's exhausting.
This podcast.
Yeah. I've since gotten some help with the editing. I was legitimately spending over 30 hours a week editing a fucking podcast with all the videos and the reference and the bullshit snaps and the picture overlays.
Yeah.
And it's
if I was your therapist, I would say, I find this podcast significant. I would say, can we spend some time talking about the podcast?
why the podcast pays attention to me. There's nothing to talk about.
And you have ultimate control over it.
Yeah. It's not going to tell me that I have to wear pants. I can't wear sweatpants. It's not going to tell me that my brother's smarter than me. It doesn't matter. It's a podcast. Who gives a fuck? I don't care about it. That's why I make sure I make everything perfect so people know how much I don't care about it.
That's right. There you go.
I haven't been hard in months. My hair, never worse. At least do one of the two. At least do one. I'm taking a pill to make me soft and uglier. Why am I taking it? You know why? Because who gives a fuck? I don't care. I am boisterous.
Oh,
Dave Cook trying to make his hands down.
God, that was 17 callbacks.
Yeah.
That was really great.
Well, you know what they say, so I'm not going to waste our time.
You're what?
It's a little joke I have where I go, you know what they say, so it's like, what do we? I'm going to repeat it. The trailer for this is just going to be. Boom, ba-dum, boom, boom, ba-dum, boom, ba-dum. Oh, I have a gift for you.
You know, that's a guy's mouth. He's going. It is someone doing
Really?
it. Boom, ba-dum, boom, boom. Yep. It's like a Bobby McFerrin, or as I call him, Robert. What is this?
A little gift I thought that you would like.
It's like Cardi B. You just give me $1 million. That's what she gave. Thank you.
You're welcome. The reason I thought of that is because he's a performer that is so funny but has so many different traits.
I love it.
And I feel like you being a writer, director, an actor. Do you direct?
I mean,
Comedian, a podcaster?
cool. Thank you very much. I wasn't sure for a second if you were fucking with me.
Yeah. So,
I'm still not entirely
yeah.
sure.
So that's, I was going to say a very kind response. Like you handle that without lying, but with also not being rude.
You mean it is a gag?
I mean,
It's a gag.
it's a $40 Justin Timberlake book. So it's funny. Yes, it's funny. I did, end of last year, I did a thing I called 8 Nights at TYSO. I did 8 episodes in 8 nights. And I had like the Christmas tree and the fireplace in here and everything. And I gave everybody a Justin Timberlake book among some other gifts. And I treated it real and everybody responded the way they would. But shout out to Esther Pravitsky. She didn't take her book. I had an extra one. So I thought I would. You know, I know it's not the holidays anymore, but the real TYSO goblins are going to love the callback. I'll throw that out.
Some of you liked it when it was big and loud at the beginning. Some of you liked little squeaks.
And if you missed, let me show you what it looked like.
Oh.
Yeah, you rewind to wrap it back up, and it looks great.
Oh my God. ASMR.
That was the most alpha I had. So the way you said no, it was like you didn't want other people to see you tell me no, but you needed me to see it. So you were real like. It's almost like I have a story with when I was on the show called The Comedians. It was with Josh Gad and Larry Charles and Billy Crystal. Yeah. And I talked about this on a Larry Charles episode, but I want to tell a condensed version of it.
Speaking of Borat.
Yes, director of Borat. He, I went in the first day and just destroyed. And they wrote me in more, and I felt like, yeah, I belong here. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I didn't feel like it. I didn't necessarily. I wanted to let you know that I knew it.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is for right or wrong. All the confidence in playing the game, right? So I'm coming in the next day, and Billy Crystal. I hear him saying to somebody else about something that I did. Larry Charles saying, and he did this, and like they're talking, and I'm like, yeah, I'm the guy.
People are talking.
So I did we're doing a scene, and it's like it's not even a full page. It's Josh Gad and I here. Billy Crystal is next in the next scene, and he's basically background, right? So he's there, but he's background. I'm in front. I'm the star. I'm the star.
Okay.
All right. This is what I do, and I'm making choices.
This is how I win.
Yeah. This is how I win. Okay. This is how I win. I got a huge cock and I have a big chest.
This is how I win.
Is that? I don't know the
That was
reference.
Sandler. You haven't seen Uncut Gems?
No, we're seeing it tonight, Betty and I.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Bring a Xanax.
Really?
It's tense.
Okay. I do have Xanax. I've never taken one for a movie.
Don't take one.
Okay.
You don't want to fuck with that shit.
So I made a huge choice going around and then cut. You do it again because, you keep improvising until they call cut. You figure if they haven't called cut yet, they want more. Just keep exhausting everybody for as long as you can until they say, all right.
Yeah.
For me, it's not cut. It's stop.
Yeah. You're waiting for interruption.
Yeah.
That's the name of your book.
Waiting for interruption. And somebody to write this for me. So I go over and the second or third time I did I could have done it once, Rick. They're obviously not going to use this.
Yeah.
And then I stop, and while the camera's still going, I'm right in front of Billy, and I'm talking to him as if the scene's still going, and I made my way back there. And then cut, and he looks at me and he goes, and I went, is it? I didn't even say what it was. I just said, is it? And he goes, it's not your show. He said it's small. The way that you said you didn't want the Justin Timberlake, he said, not your show.
Not your show.
And it changed my life, literally. That was the first time I had awareness of this thing, which is, I know I'm funny, maybe, as opposed to I know I'm funny, so who cares? And that's where I need to care. And when he said that, I said to him sincerely, I'm so glad you told me that. Because I have had so many experiences I've learned. I've talked about this on the podcast a bit, but
not your show.
Up until a few years ago, people don't tell you, shut up. People don't say you're annoying or you're talking too much or you're funny, but it's too many bits.
Yeah.
They go, and then they don't call you anymore.
Right.
And all I saw was, oh, look, they went, I'm in. I'm in. I'm going to do more of this. Oh, they didn't call me. Hey, Rick, I'm busy. He must be busy.
Hilarious.
I never knew.
Yeah.
So when he said that, I was like, oh, not everybody. Thank you, Billy, for being willing to tell me. But now what I do, I have a new tool is.
Big willing style.
What is that?
Billy being willing. I just hadn't said anything for a while, so I chimed in.
Fuck.
No.
No, I'm doing it. This
No,
is the problem.
you're not.
See, thank you, Billy, for telling me.
No,
You
I
talk
wanted
about
to
something.
say big willing style. That's
Talk
it.
about something.
I thought all that would happen would be I'd say big willing style, and you go, haha, and then you finish.
It's tough to do that shit,
Great
man. It's
story.
tough to acknowledge a throwaway. I never know how to do it. Sometimes I feel obligated to do a joke back.
Yeah, just say I saw it.
Yeah.
I like it. You can also just say I like it.
Your podcasts go for a while.
Yes.
My go around 90 minutes.
Okay.
Sometimes they're a little more. They're usually
A
90
lot
minutes.
less.
Never less. I have this.
90 minutes, never less.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The shortest one I ever did. 90 minutes.
I like that story you were telling. Was that the end of the story, though?
No.
What happens?
Good one. Were you being sincere?
No, I was.
That was always a problem for me. I am always joking, but also I joke in the top of my intelligence, so it plays both ways. It doesn't matter. If you were to tell me a joke that I don't think is funny, and I go, funny, it's acknowledging you, it's making a joke, it wasn't that funny, I said it's funny, but if you don't know that you think it's funny, I'm safe in all the examples. It's exhausting. I didn't know I don't know when other people are joking, so I always assume they are so I don't get beat. Mm-hmm. So if someone goes, no, I want to hear more, I go, yeah, I want to hear more. So, you know what I mean? That's what I would have used to have thought.
Wow.
I wouldn't have said anything. I would have said, what do you mean? Do you really want to know more?
Right.
And then they'd be like, what? Are you doing a bit right now? And I go,
Right.
wait, not, I was.
Yeah.
This is real. Well, how do I know which one's real? Dane Cook.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm feeling a little high.
That's great. But it is vulnerable. I feel like you're being vulnerable. This is like what it's like to be you. And it's fine. It's wonderful. But that is what it's like to be you. And a lot of comedians. Do they mean it? How am I coming off? And like you, I do enjoy when someone shoots me direct. That's why I told you the Zach story. It goes, don't try so hard. And with Billy Crystal, someone you respect, not your show. We would have that on Crashing. We'd have people, I wasn't bold enough to be like, fucking, it's not your show, right? Which is funny because it was my show, but I was never the one showboating. I was never like this guy.
Yeah.
This guy's
This is my show!
doing a huge bit. I was more like the narrator. And I don't say that to put it down. I was just kind of like meeker. And then would want the other people to shine. And every once in a while you'd have a guest star that would really swing for the fences.
Yeah.
And by the way, that would have been me. So I always had compassion for people like us because whenever I was like, the cameras are on us, I would riff when it wasn't even my coverage. That's like a huge mistake.
Yeah.
I know people that have lost jobs because they wouldn't stop riffing.
Also, a selfish way of making yourself better is to not think, oh, other people don't like it, but to recognize how finite energy is and to really be selfish with it and to really like, let me save this.
Yeah, and you're sort of, I don't know if this is interesting. I certainly don't want to sound elitist or something, but like,
Well, then uncross your arms and look at me.
No, you. That's very funny.
I don't want to sound elitist. Turn my microphone up a little.
I love it. And I was thinking, damn it, was people don't know how tired the people in TV shows are. So that's something I didn't know until I was a guy in a TV show.
Yeah.
Because I am the guest star that would come on a show and be doing bits in between. And,
Like, here's my value.
Yeah, exactly. And really the best thing to do is just kill it and then on cut, be a good, normal person.
That's how Billy changed my life.
Yeah, I can feel that.
I do want to say, name dropping, Billy Crystal.
Pennies dropped.
Good one. Billy, afterward, I came back for a table read for a different episode, and he was very flattering toward me. I wasn't sure if he felt bad for saying that to me, or at the moment I made up the idea was he liked that he told me that, and I had no ego about it. And I said, thank you for telling me, I wouldn't have known. And he liked the way I took that. That's what I thought. I don't know. But afterwards, he had me come in for this other thing that he was doing, and then we had like a podcast without cameras. I went to his office. We talked comedy for a little bit, and you work with a lot of great people. I have since been able to work with some great people, but at the time, that was crazy. That was unheard of.
I understand.
I'm going into Billy Crystal's office. He likes me. Mm-hmm. I like that. Mm-hmm. And I then kind of instilled on me this idea that, Rick, Billy liked it when you didn't have an ego. So and it's selfish. It's not even like it's better me. At least the instinct started where I don't have an ego. It was they're going to notice. Like I'm not going to, it's almost like I'm putting the tip in the jar when the guy's not there, because I know eventually someone's going to see camera footage or somebody else saw it. They're going to see how I didn't care that they saw. And that has made me a horrible person.
I'm going to need a nap after this one.
Fuck, I know.
I don't want to sound like I'm trying to fix you, but like nothing is as it seems. You have no control. Nothing is any of your business. Nobody's thinking about you even 1%.
This is where I am now.
As you think they are.
I want you to know that was when I realized, this is a thing. I'm just saying there's more things to calculate. Should I be?
See.
It was a short period of time.
Oh, you're over that.
That was a month of my life.
Oh, okay.
An exhausting month of my life.
I can relate to that. I think that was my 20s and most of my 30s was really wondering what people were thinking about me and thinking that people were thinking about me when in reality people are probably just thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a huge lesson.
Yeah.
And also, if they are thinking about you or if they don't like you because of this, that, or the other thing, like what business is that of yours?
It's a religion. I spent my whole life not knowing that people were thinking about me. So then when I found out they might be, that's when I did your whole 20s and 30s in like a concentrated, are people thinking about, do I need to be? And then it was like my, as you could relate to, adrenal glands kind of burnt. And then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But then you get to a point of, well, when do you try? Because I love the don't try.
Yeah, but I mean, you try in the ways that are appropriate. Trying to control how someone else feels about you is nonsense. I mean, in a genuine way, you can be a good person, be a likable person. But I mean, like it's very manipulative. It's like staying in a relationship because you don't want them to think you're a bad person.
Yeah.
It's very manipulative.
It is.
And it's narcissistic.
I talk about that in my act, where about when you get the car door for a girl, you're getting it because you want them to know you're a gentleman. I don't find logic in going around the car to get this for her. So I think it's manipulative to get the car door for a girl.
It is manipulative.
Yeah.
But you're posturing in certain ways. Men, are often physically stronger than a woman. Not always. Okay. So you're showing civility. The roots of chivalry are to demonstrate that even though I could be perceived as a threat, and let's be honest, even nowadays, most men are perceived as threats. I talk about with my wife all the time. It's like weird to be in an elevator with someone that can just like fucking. We feel it when I'm a big guy, but I'm not a strong guy. And if I'm in an elevator with like a fucking strong guy, there's like a tension there. Sure. Now imagine if I was 5'11", or whatever my wife is. She's smaller than that. It's
very tall.
It's a scary. She's not that tall. She's this. Is very frightening.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of what happened with chivalry was demonstrating. From my podcast, I'm interested in all of this. This is why women laugh, as they're trying to show that men, it's okay to be vulnerable in front of me. Because my theory is that an erection is very vulnerable to get, even though it's strong. But that's men. Men are strong but vulnerable. So women are not just accommodating, but men are such cowards. I'm saying this because I can only speak with authority on men, at least my experience, is we're strong cowards. So women, even though they're so much more than accommodating, sort of act like their biology. They're acting like their body parts, so a vagina is accommodating in the sex act. So a man acts like a dick.
A vagina is accommodating in the sex act.
It does. And the penis intrudes. Mm-hmm. So we make jokes, but it's also vulnerable, right? Yeah. So the woman on a traditional date, a man might open a door to show like, look, I am a beast. I'm hairy and I'm gross. But look, I've trained my werewolf and he's on a leash, and you are safe. And that is what pulling out a chair is. I'm not even saying you should do these things. I'm just saying that's sort of the pathology of these things. And similarly, a woman is way more than just laughing at jokes. But like on a date, a lot of my girlfriends will tell me, you laugh at jokes, stupid ass jokes, especially the comedians that I know. They go on dates with non-comedians. They're not that funny, but they sort of have to play it up because the man is doing this dance of like, I'm making a joke. I'm trying to be powerful. I'm trying to be a dick. I'm trying to show strength, but I'm also vulnerable. Please don't hate me. Please don't tease me. Please don't hate me. And the woman just goes, ha, ha, ha. And that feels like makes them feel safe. Men are cowards.
I did not know the origins of that. It makes total sense.
It's just a theory.
And I love hearing that.
It's just a theory.
I will say that it seems counterintuitive. The same reason going if you're laughing at me and it's dishonest, I am either not feeling really heard, I'm feeling manipulated, lied to, or if I don't know it, I am now being calibrated poorly.
Well, how about not a laugh, maybe just a smile, or maybe not teasing? Like there's lots of ways to laugh at a joke.
Yeah.
And one of them is laughing. But one of them is just like maintaining eye contact and not shaming somebody. That can be a laugh. Maybe it's not a laugh, but you're trying to foster an environment of like, it's okay. I know that being a guy is complicated.
Isn't that what the shaking of hands was to show that I don't have a weapon.
Yeah.
So so the shaking a hand, it's the same.
And that's what a man opening a door is. And I'm kind of arguing, even though I can't speak experientially about this, that's what a woman is saying. Like, I don't have a weapon, because women are geniuses. They are intuitive. They are emotionally powerful things. That's why they're so threatening to us. That's what the witch trials is. There's so much going on where men in our rational brains have a distrust of the intuitive. And of course, there's also the rational side of as well. But there's this magic sort of going on with women. And that can be very threatening. So women, I think, sometimes have to dumb it down for the dum-dums to feel safe.
You mean they have to have manners?
Hilarious.
But right?
Manners.
Right.
Have some manners.
But literally, they have to have manners.
Manners.
Oh, I never even thought of it that way.
Manners.
Yeah. Manner.
And we need to have womeners, meaning we need to show that we can be delicate. I'm not saying that women are delicate. I'm saying everybody has feminine energy. Everybody has male energy.
Are you telling me that, or are you validating this so your point of view has full context?
I'm saying it to the audience. Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't want people to think that I think women...
I'm just watching, and I mean this as a compliment, your strategy in conversation. You're respectfully talking through me certain moments had I not been conscious of that, would have never noticed.
Hilarious.
Well, sincerely, that's like you're really good. You're really good at that.
I want to know more. That's very interesting.
Do you not know what I'm saying, or you want more details?
I want more details. Because I find that fascinating. Because my father, as I interrupt you, my father is very good at controlling a room. Mm-hmm. Right? He'd go into a bakery in Somerville, and he was like the mayor of Somerville, and he'd just find a way to bring the entire room into his energy. And I feel like that's like a skill that I got from him. And I'm wondering if that's what you're talking about.
All right. Before I go on to what I was talking about, I just had a thought, and
let's go to a bakery.
This is going to take almost a minute.
Okay.
And it's probably not worth it, but I feel like you might know what I'm talking about and have something interesting to say on it.
Can't wait.
Should I go? What do you guys think?
Wow, that was loud.
you told a story about your father and how he has something that you either want from him, you took from him, you're not as good, like just like the device of the story. You know, my father actually used to be able to blah, blah, blah. And your version of that was something smaller than your accomplishments. You work a room that's like this. Your dad works a bakery, showing the humble roots. And there's pride in that. There's Robert Herjavec on Shark Tank talking about how his parents came over and they had nothing. That's why I have $1 billion.
I see.
It's all thanks to them. Athletes thanking their mom, which I'm sure they helped, but were they running drills with them? Thank you, basketball coach.
Right.
Or football coach.
Yeah, sure. Coach.
Now, if it were the other way around, if your father were this big, successful comedian and you wanted to be a comic, but you worked at a bakery, there would maybe be some, you can't talk about your father because it would be like, yeah, well, you're not him.
I wonder, that's a very interesting thought experiment. Could I, if let's say I do, let's try it. I own a bakery. My dad is Robin Williams. I own a bakery, and sometimes when the customers are in and we're really cooking, there is a showbiz element to what I do. Like I'm handing out croissants, I'm ringing people up at the register. We have the regulars, we have the bits. And I know it's kind of silly to say, but I feel like my dad. I feel like he worked huge crowds, but I'm finding...
It works because he passed away. Pick someone that's still here. Because there's something nostalgic. It's like you're bringing him back.
You're right.
Pick somebody
You're very smart. Yeah, that's right.
And especially if that person wasn't loved.
Yeah, so my dad was Bill Cosby.
It has to be is.
My dad is Dane Cook. And when I'm doing, you're right.
Yeah.
I even have a harder time doing it.
Yeah.
When I'm at the bakery, you're absolutely right. What an interesting, I think people should try that because it really
that's
worked.
An interesting game.
Like it felt like I couldn't really do it.
Who do you emulate yourself after? And is it because you're proud of them or you're not threatened by them? And are those two mutually exclusive? We'll be right back with another word from my dad's local area rug store, Marshall Rug Gallery. So make the right choice and visit Marshall Carpet One and Rug Gallery. And we promise, with more than 50 years as a family-owned business, we've got you covered. Dude, some podcasts I get in an energy for whatever reason, and there's a million, and I could name them, but they all exist. Who cares? We'll put them up on the screen.
They scroll by.
Yeah, just a whole bunch of like
real
real
and then a yellow one that says Pete Holmes. Is the one you're listening to?
I know why you said because it's the one you're listening to.
Yeah.
You were talking to them.
But what
yes,
I was.
What a specific genre that doesn't exist anymore.
Music
that everybody knows.
compilation CDs. Yes.
MCCD. Doesn't exist anymore. So you have this ability to, I'll tell you exactly what it is. If I had to put it in one word, and it seems like I do, host.
Host, yeah.
You have the ability to take control while making sure everybody's in on what's happening.
Yes.
Without being condescending, without even stepping on the other person.
I like that.
It's like when Conan, I can't think of an example, but the first time I noticed this, Conan does it, and someone will say, let's say somebody says, we were doing the BTS, and I thought to myself, is this something I really want to, and Conan would say, the behind the scenes. And you go, yeah, and he's not asking the guy, he's it's exposition, but it's built in.
And that sort of hyper awareness, hyper consciousness actually usually comes from some sort of trauma. And in my case, and I'm not shy about this, I love my parents. I grew up in a household where mom didn't speak dad didn't speak my brother didn't speak mom. And I felt like the Rosetta Stone. So all the meals, that's where a host is born. Mm-hmm. My dad, I watched it every fucking night. It was a real trap until I started trying to take agency over it and mediating the dinners.
You watched what happened? The miscommunication or the
fights, like constant fighting because someone would say something and I knew what they meant.
Right.
And then I'd watch my mother take it how I knew she would because of how he said it.
Guys, if you just had this one little piece of information, everying would be different.
That's right.
And you had this information.
And then I started doing that. I started meaning, he means it's very good,
right.
But he's tired.
Did they listen to that?
Yes.
And it helped.
It works. And that is something you would bring up in therapy as like an unfair burden to put on a child. And that I said in my book, I think it made the book. I was talking about how if you can get through how many hundreds of family dinners, Saturday night at the Funny Bone ain't shit. You know what I mean? Like as a comedian, part of what you're doing is listening, obviously, but you are trying to control the room. If you're trying to control two parents who aren't really getting along and a brother who's sort of like not on the same frequency as them, and you're not on the same frequency, but you can see their frequency, that is actually quite helpful in becoming a performer.
You said that in part it's listening, but also it's controlling a room, as if those were different character traits. I mean, you cannot control a room if you don't know what's if you weren't listening to them.
That's why you say, "Why are we out on December 30th?" You're going like, "Hey, can I just check in?" And just saying, "I felt it. It cracked it," just the same way that I could crack my parents. You're going like, "Isn't it? It feels weird in here."
There's
right?
a level of trust too that. Oh, even if I forget his jokes, if I agree
That's
or
right.
disagree, he thinks like me. I understand this person.
And
He understands me.
And he's paying attention. You can apply the same thing. I always bring it to sex, but it's like there's a level of awareness that can be sexy. It's not just like the movement of your hips or like some thing you read about in a dirty magazine. It's like it's bringing your attention to something.
You know, they say the real cost of connection is paying attention.
I like that.
I just made that up. Doesn't that sound like a
AT&T. Yeah, it sounds like a slogan or something.
Yeah, but also the paying of attention. It feels like it was poetic. I felt like
I like it. Pay attention with no interest. I like it.
Oh, I thought you were going back to the beat poetry.
I was, but it was a short one.
You couldn't think of anything that rhymed with interest. Was what really happened.
Pinterest.
Go on.
Skimwrist.
Limp biscuit.
Limp dicks.
Yeah,
I'm interested in your limp dickness.
well, then use promo code boobs
Oh.
and have a revitling symptom. This for whether it be nobler in the mind to enjoy the slings and arrows of regular fortune. I am not my father, for if I shopped in a bakery, I would work neither there nor here. For what am I? Underwear. I just made you say underwear.
It's a soft rhyme.
Yeah.
What were we saying though?
We were talking about blah, 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 blah.
Oh, I was going to say.
Oh, you
that
use
there's
a host.
listening, and then there's listening to when a crowd. Now we're really up our own ass, but listening to when a crowd wants you to take control. So a crowd will sometimes, usually through their festive energy, will say, "Just ride it, just grab the reins and ride it. We just want to see you surf." And then there's some crowds that like, and you know, sometimes I'm wrong, but you're trying to feel them out and you're not getting a lot of response. And you're like, is this a crowd that, do I call them dum-dums? Like to be funny, mean to them? Because sometimes that's what they want. Like it really is like being, I don't want to say on a date because you don't want to change your personality, but often people do on a date. But anyway, I'm saying like you're
Well, it's getting the car door.
Exactly.
You're manipulating
but
them.
I'm trying to lovingly manipulate the audience in the way that they want, but is also in a way that they don't expect.
All right. Rick's talking too much. I disagree.
RTTM?
Yeah. I think that much like in the acting world, when you're going for casting, sometimes they know what they want, but they want to see somebody do the best version of what they have. And if my best is incongruent with what they want from me at the moment, who wins? Do I show them less than best to give them what they wanted, or do I show them my best and let them know they wanted something they didn't even realize?
Yeah, but I said in an unexpected way. Yeah, I'm not saying just give them what they want, but you can be looking for what is it that I have that might work here.
Okay.
But you're still doing your best.
All right. Here's my truth. I felt the instinct to challenge you on it.
I liked it.
Did you?
Because in the British office, second mention, pennies dropped. The guy that I wish I knew his name, forgive me, but he was Gareth.
And you like him.
And Gareth, yeah, I liked him a lot. And he was supposed to be a big muscular Marine. And he's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And I love stories like that.
Yeah, I remember I heard that with Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where the Russell Brand character was supposed to be like this posh, like PI, smooth talking guy, and he came in with that character.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, yeah, always make choices.
Yeah. No, I think you and I are probably similar in that when I go out on auditions, I don't do it in a cocky way, but it's like I'm going to improvise. Mm-hmm. If that's not what they want, I'm probably just not your guy. And that's not like you don't get to have me. I mean, like, I don't know if I can do what you want.
Yeah.
Like a perfect mammoth, like reading of a line and making it really seem natural.
If that's what you want, I'm not the guy.
I don't think, in the interest of your production, it might not be the best. I maybe later I'll be challenged by something like that and enjoy it. But if the line is "How's it going?" I'm probably going to say "How you guys doing?" Like I just want to find a way to trick myself into not being stale. And that's how I act.
That's your Zach Braff move.
That's my
and it's a great instinct.
ZBM.
Dude, what I was wanting to say before about your podcast going a long time, I don't have mine go too long. Shortest 90 minutes, give or take. Give. Which one? Is give or take less or more?
Give or take.
Like, I'll be there in an hour, give or take. Is give 45 minutes or an hour 15?
Give means an hour 15.
So give means giving more time.
And take means 45 minutes, yeah.
Which is, I get toward the end of, whether it's a good friend of mine or...
GFOM.
I like that. Or somebody else, OSOE.
I wouldn't have included the or, but yes.
In the acronym or in the sentence?
I would drop the or in the acronym.
TTOITA?
That's what
Would you get rid of the O in that as well?
No.
Here's where I now luckily could say, oh, I see where I did too many jokes. But I still didn't see it until I did the too many jokes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to reset after too many jokes. So I just want to say thank you for your patience.
I thought you were going to say thank you for coming on.
Thank you for coming on. I'm going to end it. I'm going to do like 20 minutes. Towards the back half, the ending, the first half, there are moments where I feel insecure, and I don't know if it's insecure with guest or insecure with product. That is, really, they needed another 20 minutes?
Wow. It sounds like you might still be overthinking some stuff.
Who knows? I haven't solved it. It's not solved. It's just survivable.
You know, I see people checking like where their podcast is on the top 100 or whatever.
Oh, I don't. It's not about how well the podcast does.
No, I know.
Okay.
But it seems similar in that world of like, is the audience thinking that I didn't need that 20 minutes? There's a certain way to love yourself, which I don't just want for showbiz people. I want for everybody, where you just go like, it goes back to the interrupting thing. People tweet at me every day, stop interrupting. That Aisling B episode was great, but you talk too much or whatever. And there's a time where you just go like, I agree with you, and that's my show. I'm sort of stuck with it. Like I actually, believe it or not, I do try and don't interrupt as often as maybe I'd even like. But there's a self-love that goes like, these are the ABCs of me. This is what I'm doing. And this is how I do it. And I would argue, and often, not often, but sometimes in my head, I go like the places I go, they don't know this, like the beginning of my special. I would argue that the interrupting, the energy, the enthusiasm, the what's it called? The electricity, right? Happening between us because of the energy I'm giving leads us to places that other podcasts don't get to. And I think people are just under the assumption that if I just go, tell me how you started, and then let them talk for 5 minutes, we'd still get there.
Yeah.
That's not what the fuck is happening.
Right.
Like two people are it's like splash, like we're in a pool and we're splashing at each other and the water in the middle is the podcast. And that happens because of the waves and the commotion and the interrupting and the organic nature, including mistakes. Like I'll concede that sometimes I'm talking too much. Sometimes I'm interrupting too much. Sometimes, yes, Gary Shandling did my podcast and he said, I've had incredible God experiences. And I didn't say like what, like that's a regret. The man passed. I don't know. I actually do know because he told it on other places. Thank God. But like, that's a mistake. Yes. And just like my life is inclusive of both death and resurrection, so is my podcast, meaning pain, mistakes, and beautiful gloriousness. But people are like, it should just be resurrection. And I'm saying, no, it's death and resurrection, meaning keep the mistakes and keep the times that I said something that I shouldn't have said in, because that was in the music of humanity. I know I sound kind of lofty right now, but I just did a bump of methamphetamine.
What?
What?
Have you been talking to me?
Hilarious.
Dude, I love that so much.
Now your hair looks like Dane Cook.
Oh.
I mean, nobody's been like, we're going to have to get you a new voice.
I do get
the perfect
they do say it's a little
impression.
boisterous. It's lackadaisical in nature.
Boom, 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 boom.
Hey guys, there was an edit that happened, so we'll just put it in there. Yeah, well, that was interesting.
Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to not think about it.
Yeah.
Smokey and the Bears.
What were we talking about? I sound like Dan Cook, then something happened, I don't know what it was, and then what was before that?
I was talking about when to be assertive with an audience and when to.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, who cares, man? I feel like we're in the home stretch, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is about it. Pete, I do want to ask you.
I didn't mean that like wrap it up. I was just like, it feels like we're.
Well, that's what the home stretch is.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel like we agree that we've reached the home stretch. I'm not saying please wrap it up. I'm saying doesn't this feel like.
So here's what's happening. I am running towards third, and you are waving me home.
Yeah.
But should you stop? It's your choice.
That's right. If you don't have it, I don't know how your
Or should I say,
how your hammies are.
I have a bit that I don't want to pitch.
You'd rather catch.
I'd rather take.
What's the bet?
It's a bit that I've done on stage before, and I'm like, I don't know, and I'm putting it out there, but it's basically it's who's on the Abbott and Costello who's on first routine. If everybody had regular baseball names, but the other guy still didn't get it.
That's funny.
Who's on first? Brian. Brian? Yeah. Brian? Yeah. But then who's on second? No, David's on second. Who? David? Yeah, David. Oh, so it's Brian and David. Yeah. Well, who's on third? Third base. You know, whatever. I haven't written it, but you get it.
I would go on YouTube. I would type in Family Guy, who's on first, and just make sure nobody's.
So funny. Yeah, sure.
I feel like a routine that well known.
Okay.
I'm just worried for you.
And if I go on Family Guy and I see that they do it and it's funny, then I should do it.
If you go on Family Guy, it'll be as a Dane Cook voice match.
Yeah, DCVM. Here's what I wanted to get to you about. You have a podcast, you go a while. Sometimes you go in the home stretch and you stop at third. Sometimes you'd say, let's just take the win. Why risk it? I could get off right now and it would be good. Or we could just do more of the same and maybe.
Right.
You have a podcast, right, Pete?
This is hilarious. And sometimes it goes long.
And, sometimes you want to stop. No, I'm just kidding. You like doing a podcast?
Oh, my God. I've been doing too many lately. I canceled a few because I was like, sometimes.
Recording them or putting them out?
Recording.
You do one a week.
One a week comes out, but I'll record several in a week.
Yeah.
And lately I've been doing, 4 in a week, 5 in a week, something like that. And that's just too many. So I've started.
You exhaust yourself.
Yeah. Well, in between my podcast theory, if people are interested at all, is you got to be reading. You got to be talking to people, like regular people, like having actual conversations. You need to have some alone time. Often, so many times the things that I'm saying on the podcast are things that I thought alone on a long drive in a car. You're just kind of taking an inventory. What are you feeling? Mm-hmm. What are you afraid of? What have you learned? You need that time. And if you just keep recording podcasts, you're talking to the same Pete, as opposed to Pete does this one, then a week later Pete 2.0 does this. You know what I mean? There's always.
I do.
I've watched a documentary. I've watched a movie. I've listened to another podcast. I've filled up my tank, and that's it's not just the energy to, because I can hear Adam Carolla being like, "What's the big deal? You just talk," and that's a loving impression. But I'm like, for me, I need to be taking in a lot of input to have new things to say. Otherwise, I just keep telling that Jack Galifianakis story.
I'd like to just point out again how great of a host you are by slipping in the context of your Norm impression. Letting people know that you're not making fun of him. You're saying he's great. This is my.
It's a love.
I'm paying him homage.
It's Carolla, but yes.
What did I say?
Norm
Macdonald.
Same,
Adam Carolla.
Same one though.
Yeah, they have a similar. Yeah.
But my Norm is not loving.
Let me hear it.
Shots fired at Norm for no reason. I'd actually love to have Norm on the podcast. He's awesome.
Let's get him on the phone.
You know Norm?
Well, I mean, there's only so many numbers. Pete, you have a podcast, right? You're so in tune with bits while being a calm guy, and it's it's almost like a guy with a full head of hair and a boner. I remember when you deconstructed why accents are funnier, and I don't know if I agree with the theory.
With Fred?
Yeah, you said that accents are funnier because you related it to a callback as well. It's just like, oh, he's doing this thing. I'm hearing something I've heard before, and I know it's not this Pete. It's Pete 3.0.
It's pleasing that it's accurate.
Yeah, and
the same with impressions.
I liked that deconstruction of it. I've often thought about it. I've often wondered why, if I do a British accent, it's a bad British accent, but if I do an Asian accent, it's racist, because this hierarchy of
it's marginalized people. That's why, like, it's not okay necessarily. Like I saw Fred Armisen on Conan, and they were going through all the accents, and they got to Jamaica, and he didn't do it. And it's not that I think he might have gone, hey, and then he was like, I don't want to do that one. And I spend I have a bit about it where I go, it's okay to do Italian, but if I say hero, it's not okay. And it's because there's all the labor things with Chinese workers, and there's racism, and white males have been in a powerful position because of that history. That's why we don't do it.
Betty, did I see you come in?
You did.
Betty, would you mind coming to the oh, you're so beautiful. I know it's important to let the audience know how you treat
a little.
Yeah, so I want to say
Doing accent jokes.
or not accent jokes because there's nothing funny about an accent.
That's
Unless they're not marginalized.
I mean,
But we knew my mom's accent, and it's fine. My mom's Eastern European, and we take
Oh,
risks
yeah?
on that all the time.
I did my Russian producer, my wonderful Russian
And
producer.
the Russians aren't marginalized.
And that's all right.
Betty turned me onto your podcast.
Oh, thanks, Betty.
I've been listening since like the very, very beginning.
Really?
Like, where I was 21 when I first listened, so like 2011. 2012.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. You got to hear pre-muscly Kumail was the first guest.
And Betty,
If you go back and listen, he talks about protein a lot. You could see it coming.
really? No. Well, we'll find out. I get an animated
2-hour podcast.
Yeah, put the whole podcast in. And when it was Betty's idea to say, oh, you should try to get Pete Holmes on the podcast. And I'm thinking to myself, why don't I get Robert Duvall? Because how am I going to, what are you talking about? By the way, I love Robert Duvall. I've learned from you got to say.
Love Duvall.
Love Duvall. He's
LD.
great. Oh, hey, I'm Robert Duvall is a flattering impression.
Yeah.
And I reached out through
To
Jeremiah.
Robert Duvall. Yep.
And you said yes. And Betty said, oh, like, I'd have so many questions. I don't know if you were saying you do have so many questions or if you were saying if you were me, you'd have a lot of questions. But I thought, don't think about it. And to put you on the spot, what's if there was a question?
We've had bad experiences
I
putting
wanna
people
do-
on the spot.
Do you know what? Recently I listened to.
Do you want to come over for a moment?
No, I don't want
You sure?
Yeah. Can't
Is it because you're too pretty?
Oh my god.
Don't do that.
Don't you say don't do that? I'm sorry. I made you uncomfortable.
I wanna
Well,
do
now what
the
do I do? Do I bleep
anagram
it?
thing. I want to do the anagram thing. What do you think he is?
But because you do know everything's going to have to be subtitled here.
I think
Yeah.
he's a 5.
Do you? What's that? Which one's that?
The challenger.
Right, that's what I said to you the other night.
But there's another one of me.
What do you mean? Yeah, I mean, I thought maybe you were a
thought-
7, the enthusiast.
Or the loyalist, that one.
The 1?
Yeah.
Is that a 1?
I'm not familiar with these.
This is the Enneagram.
Could you give for the audience?
Yeah,
and
the
me.
the Enneagram, it sounds like, I joke every time that it sounds like Scientology, but it's a very helpful, useful, ancient, meaning it's hundreds of years old tool where there's 9 personality types. It's like Myers-Briggs in that way. And you take a survey, it takes about an hour. You can do it at their website and it'll tell you what your number is. And this is it's not just a parlor trick, or it shouldn't just be a parlor trick, but it can actually really help you understand. It's not astrology either because it's not based on when you're born. It's based on how you answer certain questions, and it's very thorough, and it sort of tricks you, and it's very good. So it tells you what you are and what you're good at, and it also really roasts you, as we always say. It breaks you down and tells you what your problem is. So I'm a 3. I'm an achiever. We've sort of already covered what I'm good at. It's sort of that like controlling the room, reading how people perceive me, controlling how people perceive me. These are all good things. I'm also good at turning things into products. You know, like if I was like, oh, we should have a podcast where there's an off-camera woman who lived in London for 12 years. This is a good idea. And like, I could market that and like get excited about
Write that
it.
down.
I think I'm
Good
down
one.
with the nurturer.
What's that?
What's the nurturer?
2? I think the helper, the nurturer. Yeah, I think that's the 2.
I really want him to do it though. I'm going to get us a...
So
You
it
should
would,
do
it
it.
would be good for me because it would help. It would expand my awareness and let me know basically my casting to the world.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the downside of the 3, for example, is deceit. Like you can be a lying, manipulative.
Am I a 3?
No, I'm saying I'm a 3.
3 was what you are.
So what I'm saying is it's not like
The
a
achiever
fun
is
Cosmo test. It actually sort of humiliates you. It's hard to talk to somebody with this much energy and not think you're a 7, which is the enthusiast.
But he's got that other
Challenging
side.
thing.
Yeah, where it's like always the challenger and like,
I agree.
likes honesty.
Well,
and
that's right. Well, it could be. I'm not an expert either, by the way. But the 1 is the person that this is how things should be done. That could be like what's happening. But you haven't really corrected me. You've just done a lot of challenging. So maybe you don't want my feet on the.
No, I was
You
just
don't
doing.
like
Please make yourself at home.
I would say you're 5, but I'm not an expert. But I do like the Enneagram quite a bit.
So I'll do it. I'll just take a test for an hour, and then I'll be a better person.
And I would have to imagine that whoever is dating this person would be a 2. That I could say.
Which is
The helper.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's 100%. I mean, that's a kind of, not an issue, but that is a thing of me not knowing when to stop
Yeah.
doing things.
That's
Like,
interesting. Do you mirror him?
No, I
You sure you don't want to sit here? Because this is a conversation at this point.
Because that's what a... See, that's a 1.
Which is...
The one, the guy, the rule follower, how
sit in
things
this
should
spot,
be.
or I'll just sit here. I'll sit here.
Okay.
I speak really quietly.
So,
So go in more.
I mean, I'm sure I'm sure it'll be okay. What's the best number to be and what's it called?
Hilarious.
Hilarious? Okay.
Well, the United States is a 3 country. So people like me are
I know you're talking
valued.
about that, yeah.
So Val, my wife, is a 9, and that's the peacekeeper. And if the 9 was a country, it would be like Jamaica, in the way that we imagine.
How would they say that there?
Hilarious. Be a Ken. So you're in Jamaica, and again, I'm saying how we imagine Jamaica, not how Jamaica really
yeah.
is. But I'm talking about like a relaxed, don't worry, be happy kind of community, which really does exist in some parts of the world, is a 9. It's like everybody just be happy, no pain, no problems, no problems. So what they can do is mirror. So I'll be flaring up my 3-ness, and Val will just mirror me and accommodate me. But we have to keep an eye out for that so that she can be her true self.
I like everything you're saying, and I don't want to negate it with saying something a little corny, but it feels right.
I feel like you could have just said it and would be done.
Okay, I guess you're the controller too, huh? Could have done a lot of things.
Go on.
I could be soft right now.
That's
but I'm
hilarious.
not. Because I'm taking Blue Chew. That's blue like the color Chew. CHEW promo code DICK.
That's not the promo code. Give them the real promo code.
Boobs.
That was the other one, yeah.
My promo code is boobs.
Is it?
Well, I have a sweatshirt, and the promo code is boobs.
Okay.
So
But he's not like this all the time. There's a real yin yang to him.
Oh, interesting.
Thank God.
You're kindly burning me. No, I understand it. I believe me, and I appreciate you. And you are defending me preemptively. Rick doesn't know that he's doing this, so we want Pete to know. Listen, there's another side of him.
No, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
People think I am on the who I am on the podcast. I'm like, I can be this way for 2 hours a day.
But what we were saying, what I was telling you, was how you see jokes so well. That's my life. They all are. I have this idea. All the bits are there. It's just if you see them and you take it and you use it in that moment.
Yeah.
And you see them, which to me, if the metaphor would be, in order to take all these bricks of jokes, you have to be strong and loud and take them, So seeing the jokes, but not being too much, energize is nice, but a little too much, is interesting. It's a thing that you have.
You're saying I don't get too energized by it.
I'm saying
But
that
I've been doing it for 20 years. I mean, I think maybe I was more excited at a certain point. I'll still come home. I came home. I did a set last night and came home and I told Val, I didn't like perform it, but I just told her about a bit I did that didn't work very well. But I told her, if you want to see what my confidence looks like, I just go like, I know it's funny. I just don't know how to let them know it's funny yet.
Am I special?
But she'll tease me about how like grotesquely confident that is. But if you make shoes for 20 years, you probably know how to make a shoe. Sometimes I make a bad one.
Are you saying that he'll see a joke but not have to go for it?
Not necessarily. I'm saying that he sees a joke, and it's just another day in the office where I see a joke and I go, I love coffee. I don't need to drink coffee to get excited about coffee.
That's why I'm like, maybe you're a 7, but you're like certainly.
I don't know. I don't know these things.
Yeah,
What's the other side of a 7 though?
Self-deception, like denial.
Is that me?
She laughed. That's
No, I
hilarious.
think you have learned
I think that's the diagnosis
a
right there.
lot of perception of yourself over the years, but from what you told me before I met you, that wasn't the case. You were unaware a lot of the times of how you were coming across.
Right. What is it that you're saying right now?
I think
I'm
she's saying that that's a
you
type
have
of denial.
cultivated a certain sense of being able to recognize yourself being a certain way.
Gotcha.
But before that, perhaps that
Right.
was you stepping into
We briefly
your life.
talked about, but around the Billy Crystal days.
So yeah, I mean, then you get into the excitement of being a converted 3. So I don't think I'm actually, I try very hard to be almost like overly honest because I know that deceit is my thing. I've given examples of deceit. Like a pretty benign one would be like two friends are riffing. And Thomas Middleditch and I talked about this when he did my podcast. We would riff, and then I would notice that he would do some things with something that we had riffed, but so was I. We were both being threes. I don't know if Thomas is a three, but that's the type of deceit where we do this riff. Remember when you're doing comedy like 3 years and like you're so desperate, come up with something and you're like, that could be a sketch. And you really feel like you had ownership of it. So, but instead of asking, because you can't even be that vulnerable or you're too scared or you're too stupid, you just do it. That's the type of deceit a three would do.
I noticed that you had a sensitivity to deceit because I'm assuming you wrote it. I don't know if it was the pilot, but it was one of the earlier episodes of Crashing, and you had a problem giving the flyers out that had people's. Why can't we just say who's really there?
Yeah, and we had to do that. And the worst deceit was when I was barking for the Boston was I had to say it was a great show, and it wasn't.
I also, I don't know if this is a character trait that is of a 3. I have
Because
a very hard time
there was no
doing
one
it.
there, by the way. It was like it was bad because it wasn't the full house, and not all the the comedians weren't my cup of tea. So like a guy like me wouldn't have gone to a show like that and enjoyed it. So a lot of people
But yet
would.
you have to tell people.
But I would have to be like,
problem.
this is a great comedy show. And I hated that. And sometimes people would be, I mean, I'm still afraid to say this, like I still work there. They weren't even paying me. But someone would be like, is it really good? And I was like, you should go to the UCB. Because I knew they were like, kids my age, This was more like, the comedy that I was coming up into was the neck tattoo comedy. It was leather jacket comedy. There was a lot of the hard F word. I don't mean fuck. I mean the derogatory one. There was a lot of use of the cunt. There was a lot of, and I was very Christian. I know I keep going. I was very Christian.
Wet, sloppy pussy.
At the time. So there were people, there was a woman that did this bit about Jesus not liking it up the ass or something. And I would be aghast. I'd aghast. I'd literally be in the back like, that's what I was trying to capture on Crashing was like, it's a guy who's trying to keep his soul in the way that he knows it in this world of pirates. And we did have some of that, but the reality was often even more stark, meaning I'd be in the back. There were people that would walk out, that leave. It was the woman that was doing the Jesus up the butt joke, which is just like very offensive to say. And this woman stood up, the whole front row was with her, it was a whole family. And I remember her voice broke. She went, "You should be ashamed of yourself." And they left. And I was on next. I was always on after this woman. It was like a joke. And I always would have to go up for the walked audience. It was very difficult for me. Yeah, that was what that was like. I lost my train of thought.
The Jesus up the butt is offensive, not because up the butt is offensive, but because Jesus is marginalized.
Hilarious.
But also, is there truth in that formula?
Well, I mean, if you want to get into misogyny and homophobia, yeah. I mean, that's why motherfucker, cocksucker, all those words.
Is motherfucker a homophobic thing?
Anything, well, motherfucker's different, but cocksucker and fuck you is things that get fucked are bad. And that's both homophobic and misogynistic. So if I call you a cocksucker,
it's like, why is that a problem?
I've made this point a million times. I know, and that I've seen comedians do that bit, so don't do it. It's like, what a cocksucker. It should be like a nice thing.
Right.
But the reality is, especially in a 3 culture, we like things that impose on things. We like Captain America who's throwing a shield. He's not like catching shields. We like dicks. We don't like vaginas. We're threatened and we don't know what to do with them because it's perceived as weak. When, of course, I'm not just saying this because you're here. I've watched a baby be born. It's the most badass thing I've ever seen in my life. And there were men in the waiting room watching a football game because they're such fucking pieces of shit. Like the most badass gladiatorial Beyonce thing I've ever seen in my life came from a vagina. And I'm not saying that to win feminist points. It's fucking true. But because the way that it happens is it receives, like that's why men act like dicks. You know what I mean? And that is like rewarded because we're all acting like our anatomy when really, of course, we're so much more than that. But we live in a society that benefits that. So you see it in our language. Saying fuck you, I'm saying you get fucked. I'm not saying I fuck you. I'm saying you get penetrated because you're weak. Yeah. And that's why we say pussy too. You're a pussy. You receive. But people that yield, people that are patient, people that are forgiving, people that are kind, people that are open. This is a very feminine energy, and it's just not respected.
Pussy. You're weak. You're pussy. You're too caring about
There's
people.
no like samurai nuance to what we're doing, where it's like
there
this
isn't
person
one?
had restraint, and that is strength.
You're saying there isn't that?
In America, there isn't as much, I would say.
Do you think that though?
My whole life is showing that being vulnerable is strength.
Right.
It was in my wedding vows. And Val did it. I think she told me she did it because my father was in the congregation. And he's a very strong guy. He won't tell me about his failures. He won't tell me about his shame and his sadness. And I've made a whole career because, you know this, they lovingly, but they imposed on me the image of the golden boy. So I've spent my whole career. How many on-screen jerk-offs are there on Krikes? It's a ridiculous amount. How many like lost erections and all these stories that I want to share? It's just, or doing drugs or having doubts. There's a chapter in my book called The Horathius because it was about when I was an atheist. My father read my book and goes, he doesn't mean it. He was never an atheist. They can't even, so my whole life is like sledgehammering this stupid wall. I've put down the sledgehammer. I'm over it. But there was a long period of my life trying to get my parents to see me as a three-dimensional person because that's real love. You know what I mean? I know they love me and they love the little boy me, but I keep going like, can you love angry me? Can you love flawed me? Can you love scared me? Like, what about the times that I failed? Like, my dad really wants to share a cup of coffee and talk about like a big win that I had, but like, it's so much more valuable and it's more feminine. It's more accommodating to say, here, let me make space for your heartache. Instead of being like, let's just ram our dicks together. Remember that time? Right? That's what a lot of men are doing. They're just ramming horns, if you want like an animal image. It's just like that instead of the more vulnerable thing. What could be more vulnerable than being like, I'm going to allow you in here and like foster that. That's like a fucking, that's literally the essence of life. That is strength. It's not just like a play of strength. Accommodating and nurturing is real strength. Because it's using your power to empower. Whereas men, as we see in leadership, men take power to get more power. But true power is to empower people. So you're given power and you give it away. Try it, fucking pussy! Okay.
Yeah, okay. We wrestled a little bit earlier. Comedy wrestled.
Just a little.
Betty keeps telling me how much perspective. Betty, you keep telling me, right? Isn't there a rule of that too? You're supposed to make sure you acknowledge instead of speak about because you're here, but I'm used to talking of you. The perspective that you have and then how much I would connect and love it. And that's that's when I said she turned me on to you. And having you here right in front of me, I got to tell you something.
I don't like it.
You're just going off.
I get it. I get it. You know, it's like the Cheesecake Factory.
You have
gonna give me-
similar opinions on things, but his is more rooted, I think, in therapy and doing that
Yours
kind of stuff.
you feel very rooted in therapy.
Yeah, yours is therapy. Yours is also a little bit more on the spiritual side. So I feel like the Ramdas stuff.
Ram Dass versus my therapist.
Yeah.
Now that's a podcast.
Ram
I
Dass
listen
was
to.
a therapist. That's what makes him so awesome. I mean, it's one of the things that makes him so awesome is that he can speak of spiritual things inside. You're catching me. I'm being a good host. Mm-hmm. One of the things, I'd be a good politician. That makes him awesome is that he can speak of these things in an intellectual way, which being an East Coast boy, growing up wanting to go to Harvard, I have a psychological tie to someone who taught at Harvard still, to this day. It's still in play when I listen to Ram Dass and I go, this guy knows what he's talking about. He went to Harvard. So it appeals to my psychology. That's why like Ram Dass works for me, but everybody needs to find the teacher or teachers that work for them. And my mix is Ram Dass, and it has that intellectual thing and the spiritual thing, obviously. Richard Rohr, even though I wasn't raised Catholic, there's something about someone in high church that like went through like serious seminary stuff and still is preaching a religion of universality and inclusiveness and human dignity and value and worth and love, that you can relax about all these neuroses that we have. That means more than just me saying it. I can say it, and that's nice. Maybe you agree with me, but we're changed by symbols. You've heard me say this a million times. We're changed by symbols, liturgy, ritual.
What's liturgy?
It's just a fancy word for rituals. It's just like a wedding is a liturgical situation. Unless I'm wrong about that, that'll be embarrassing. But
It's not. It'll be fine.
I'll be fine with it for sure. But what I'm saying is a man in a frock saying it just matters more. Like it's Hulk, it's Wolverine in the suit. Like these images, it's Star Wars. It's these things that conjure up all these very, very strong feelings. Even if I made the new Star Wars just with a cast that wasn't the Star Wars universe and it didn't open with that crawl, that movie sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like we need symbols. So like I like a guy that's in the church telling me the same things that Ram Dass tells me. And then if you're looking for a non-spiritual, but deeply spiritual, but an intellectual way in, Eckhart Tolle is the other guy. If somebody is like, I'm an atheist, it's like, great, just listen to Eckhart Tolle. He's not going to talk about God. He's going to say, I'm talking about awareness, which some people call God, and, then that's a great way in. But I had somebody who was suicidal on Instagram reach out to me, and I'm like, please listen to The Power of Now. I just think that might help you.
When you get people
and
reaching
like,
out,
I'm not religious. And I'm like, it's not, but I don't know what else to say.
when you get someone reaching out to you with something where you now have a responsibility,
Like suicidal?
yeah, lesser stakes. I've been having a really rough time, and listening to your podcast has been a help. Just your part of what they're communicating to you for whatever reason is that you are helping me. I am needing something from you. Does that make you ever feel a sense of obligation in response? I guess the suicidal version. If someone said, hey, I'm thinking of killing themselves, you, as a person, as a soul, as a human, you want to help, you want this person to feel better. But also, you're signing a contract once you start communicating to them.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
And is there a sense of responsibility where you'll ever like reach out to a professional who say, how should I respond to this?
Buddy, you know, it's funny. I mean, this is a tricky thing to talk about, right? Because there is sort of like somebody's reaching out. The truth is that I think that happens a lot. People that are suicidal tweet about it, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I had a friend who killed himself, and he did tweet about it. So, I mean, like, it can be very real.
Yeah.
So there's a guy that I like, and he tweeted that he was feeling suicidal, and I was like, what do I do because of this exact situation? But for some reason, I just got the sense, I couldn't tell. It was how he wrote it. It didn't really seem just like bleak. It seemed like he was having a freak out about something that he was kind of going into details about, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if this answers your question, but I was like, somebody else with millions of followers, so like even a bigger voice than me, if it's a fame thing, tweeted the perfect thing. Dude, how you're feeling is normal.
Tweeted to this person?
Yes. And said, how you're feeling is normal. We've all been there. You need to understand that voice in your head is not you. It is an illness. You're basically possessed. This isn't what he's saying, but I'm adding to it. The illness is telling you to hurt yourself. That's a great way, I think, to think about suicidal thoughts. You have, instead of a tumor, you have feelings and you have impulses, and that is the tumor. And that is what needs to be treated, right? It's like a gun. A tumor is growing a gun. I'm not trying to be funny, and it shoots you. That's how much of a disease it is. So you need to identify the disease, then go see a professional and have it treated with medication or otherwise. That you need to do that because it's just like having a tumor. And that's what he said, in more or less. So I was like, how do I engage with this? Because I just happened to see this tweet. I faved the tweet that the guy tweeted at him.
Both
that was my way of saying,
I approve this message.
this is what you should do. Because you are playing a game, and we, unfortunately, sometimes we do have to protect our hearts. If I was engaging, I don't even check my Instagram messages anymore, but when I was, it was fairly common that somebody in a dark place or a place where they might harm themselves would come in. And if I'm feeling open and flowy, I saw that Mr. Rogers movie. He opens every day with writing letters to fans and stuff. I was like, wow,
you
beautiful.
comment on something I want to just tie in case that was maybe a subconscious perspective that they said in Mr. Rogers when Mr. Rogers was talking about how like, I have nothing to do but be here talking to you right now.
That's right.
And then you share that. You talked about how you even say that to the wife. There's nothing I want to.
That's
the
right.
audience wants you to be there. Yeah. And I was wondering if you felt that beforehand or you heard it on Mr. Rogers, because I heard it on Rogers and loved it. I'm like, I got to adopt that.
I had heard it before,
Okay.
but I mean, like when he said, I hadn't necessarily heard it put that way. I loved it when he said it.
So beautiful.
When he says the most important thing I'm doing is talking.
It logically and emotionally makes sense to me.
It's perfect.
Uh-huh.
I love Mr. Rogers.
But I'm sorry. Please continue.
In a more perfect world where I had lots of time, I could just devote my life. Maybe that sounds cocky. I just mean like it would take a very long time to reply to every message.
And you can't just reply willy-nilly for some of these. You have to calculate
and then
it.
you also, this is the head versus the heart, right? The head says some of these people might be manipulating you. I don't know if you watch The Act, but there are people that are gaslighting. There are people that are just looking for attention. Whatever. Yeah. What do you do? It's like the starfish washed up on the beach, and you throw it in, and you go, you can't save them all, and you go, like, I saved that one, right?
When somebody comes up to you at a gas station needing $2 for their bus ride home, it's like, I've heard this one before.
Right.
But some people need to get on the bus.
But he has a hard time. Even someone will write saying, "I love this podcast. This episode made me feel like so connected. I don't have that many friends." Blah blah blah. And he'll read it to me, and I'll go, "Just reply, thanks. I'm glad it helped." And he goes, "Well, it didn't help. How could it have helped?" Like,
Also,
he
when I
doesn't
say
understand.
thanks, I'm saying thanks. Hey, love your podcast. Hey, Pete, love your podcast. I have a horrible stomach ache right now. And you go, thanks. It's like, well, no, that was the way in. That wasn't the message. So thanks feels weird. This message isn't about I have a good podcast. That was a knock
but
on the door.
If somebody said, "Thanks for your podcast," I have a stomach ache right now, I'd say sorry.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So the thanks.
Yeah, but I would still take ownership over their stomach ache. If I say picture an asshole bleeding pus, sorry. You know what I mean? Of course I'm affecting people's lives.
I've seen you. Yeah, like I've
Yes.
seen you and I've heard you and
I understand the impulse to be like, it's not me or whatever, but
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
fuck
He
off.
thinks
It was
it's
me. I
ridiculous.
took the time. I recorded, I released it. All that reading that I'm doing, all those documentaries that I'm doing, all those conversations that I'm doing, all the remembering that I'm doing, all the listening that I'm doing. It's very easy for someone to be like, yeah, but you don't shovel gravel or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but what I'm doing is very inclusive. It took me therapy to realize and took me friends to realize that when I do a podcast, I'm very tired afterwards. They're just like, you were just talking to a friend. Someone needed to be like, you were just listening intently to somebody for way longer than most people listen intently to somebody, unless they work in like customer service or something. You're doing it for a very long time, and it's okay. Like I was talking about, like it's so weird on Shark Tank, where you probably heard me say this, but they're like, this pen, I made a pen, it cost 10 cents, and they're like, how much do you charge? And they're like, $19.95. They're like, ooh, good margins. When really they should be humiliated to share that with us.
The other day, I went, oh my god, no! She made these horrible wrap things, and she was landing them for like $6, and
Yeah.
then she was charging people $140, and I was like, that's disgusting.
That is
you were like,
disgusting.
that's a good margin, and I was like, no.
It is a good
What?
margin, but it's so fucking weird that we even have a concept that's 3 culture of going, that's a good margin, right?
Wolf of Wall Street did this with the pen.
That's right.
So
That's true.
and
Wolf of Wall Street is also a very 3 movie, but yes. So
Shout out
there's
to
a
Barry Rothbard.
markup with Barry with pens, right?
Right.
And there's in the same way there's a markup with when I go and do stand up. You pay this money, and I started to go like, wait, should I call bullshit on myself? And then I was like, just because my pen is invisible doesn't mean I didn't put a lot of work, R&D, refinement, constantly working on it, making it better. It's a self-updating, wireless, internet-connected pen. It's not the internet, but it's my brain. Right. That's fine. What I'm saying is it's okay to own your penness and just be like, I'm a pen. And people pay for pens, and people pay, if they don't pay money, they can say thank you. That's a nice way of saying, you don't have to get a big head about it, but I don't have a problem. When people say, I was in a depression and I watched your special, I'm just like, fucking hey, thank you so much. If you want to be really empathetic and beautiful, compassionate about it, you can say, you are listening to me cheer myself up. And I'm so glad you got cheered up by it. And when my podcast helps you, you listen to me being helped. And that's
Right.
why it helped you. If you want to be meek about it, I'm all for meekness.
Yeah. I'll sometimes have responded with like, thank you for telling me that.
Just fave it. If you want to know what to do, you just fave it.
Right.
All you want to say is, I saw it and I liked it.
Yeah.
Fave.
But Instagram is a hard. Right.
You got to allow the message, and then I just send back the heart emoji. That's what I do.
Right.
And then if they reply again, I'll just,
Case by case.
I usually just let it go.
Right.
I just want to be like, I'm not saying I'm not available. And this is just a boundary. I'm not available to talk with you, but I do want you to know I saw your message and I liked it.
Yeah, I very much recognize that people don't know their boundaries.
Right.
They're not going to know mine. So I want to be very clear with
Let's
it.
not assume. For all they know, there are celebrities out there, I'm sure, that if you message them, they'll just talk with you because maybe they're bored. Maybe they're on the road and they just want to chat with someone. Or maybe they're trying to meet the love of their life. I don't know. But with me, my boundary is I'd like you to know that I read this because I got something out of it. So I want to share that back with you. It feels weird to just take and not just give something back. But I don't need to I'm not entering a contract then that we need to be friends, friends. Because sometimes I get very manic and then I get very stable, very lowish stable. It's not a bad feeling. It's just kind of, ugh. And then when I'm manic, that's when I'm replying to emails. That's when I'm sending heart emojis. That's when I'm faving tweets. And then often they'll write back and I'll be here. And it's just sorry, Pete's not here right now. And that's okay.
Yeah, you talked about that, which I feel so such an akinness to, where you said the optimistic Pete will book to go do things with friends, and that's me. And then when I get there, then I'm
to
this
follow
other
through
type
with
of
it.
me, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh fuck, the follow through is not something I'm capable of.
Yeah. I said that to Val the other day. I was 90% of my life is making plans manic and following through with them regular Pete or low.
Yeah.
And that's life. And that's stand up. And that's the beautiful thing about stand up is I don't just have to like commit to writing in a chair. Like writing a book is very hard. You just have to show up and you're marshaling your own arrival. A stand-up, like I have to go. Like I'm on the bill. Like and that's very helpful. So it teaches you that
Helpful to have
discipline.
the obligation.
Yeah, of being obligated and following through and realizing that I did that set last night. I've been doing too many podcasts. I've been doing too many sets. I have a set tonight. I'm overworking it. I'm going to tonight be doing an impression of a guy who's happy to be doing stand-up. But that's a valuable thing to do to see that you can do it.
Do you talk about stand-up stuff?
We didn't talk much about stand-up.
Because he's got a thing about repeating. He feels like that's lying as well, like repeating jokes and repeating stuff. And I feel like you once spoke about that, how it's like you feel like repetition, but you kind of find a way through it. And I really wanted him to listen to stuff about that.
Yeah, I think we actually did talk a little
We
bit
talked about
that
being there and
because
capturing
you're
energy.
seeing, the joke only exists with the audience. So it's like
I feel this way. It seems you feel this way, but that isn't a fact. Like you said, you could read something.
The material has been chronicled without the audience.
Yeah.
In the way that sheet music is chronicling the song Satisfaction. But Satisfaction only exists when the band is playing it in concert.
Right.
I don't mean with an concert, I mean together. I know you knew. So in the same way, even though I've told this joke before, the timing, I've also kissed my wife before. You know what I'm saying? There's a way that you do it presently that makes it different from any other kiss, even though it's the same thing happening. So I'm telling the joke that I've told before. This is why an audience can know that you've told a joke before in the same way that they know the Rolling Stones have played Satisfaction before. But you're doing it not for them, not in front of them, but with them. The way they laugh informs the way that the joke is performed, and therefore a listening comedian is never really repeating material. I understand that they want to hear new stuff, but that's actually not a person that really understands what's going on when they're enjoying a stand-up comedy show, I would say. You're not going there to go, that's new, I've never heard that. You're going to fucking forget. It's gone. You're there for the experience of communion, not just with the audience, but with the performer, and you want them to be present. And the only way that I can get you to stop thinking about whether or not I'm doing old stuff is by doing new stuff. But that's not the point. The point is not the words. The point is you're offering a skill of delivery, of presence, of being with them and allowing them in a phoneless, screenless time to just be and be happy and be joyful. Have they heard the jokes before? Am I being insincere? Who fucking cares? I'm here to delight you. The skill, if I could do it by going, that would be great.
No, I know. And I've literally, not joking, I think about that all the time. Can't I just, I feel that way in social situations that I don't want to be at. Can't I just go in and go,
We talked about that yesterday.
and then you go, and
No,
then
you could. And that's what people are doing.
So yeah,
But they're just saying sentences.
Yeah.
But the difference is because you don't want to go, because you're not just going for haha, you're also going for or click or interesting.
Of course.
But like, if I was Seinfeld, I'd just say, that's your job. Do your fucking job.
Of course.
Do it again.
Of course.
I had a friend, my great musician friend, Michael Gunger, was like my last record. I said everything that I wanted to say. And I said, say it again. It's your job. Say it again.
You heard it here first. That's your job. Say it again. I'm Rick Glassman with special guest Betsy. Oh, your name's Betty. With special guest Betsy Sidaro, and I will put up a link right here. I'm sorry. With special guest Pete. You don't know Betsy Sidaro? She's a very funny comedian.
Oh.
We'll put up a clip.
Heard about is it the skull in the bed?
I think it's I think it's installed in a bed, a headboard.
Yeah.
Of a bed, yeah.
I've heard about that. I didn't know they used cadaver bodies.
I don't know.
Skeletons.
See, I don't know what cadaver means. I don't know if a cadaver is specifically for medical use, but a dead body is a dead body, and if I said it once,
Yeah.
I've said it a few times.
You say it all the time.
Well,
A
I
dead
try to
body
not
is a
say it
dead
as
body.
much anymore. Oh yeah! Where could people see you? And
Was this 3 hours?
Almost, yeah. What's the time?
probably after the
Val
mustache
is gonna
changes,
laugh
it's
at
2.
me. She is going to laugh so hard. I was like, I think it'll be an hour.
How's your baby?
She's so good. She's 2 now. I'm just kidding. Because the podcast was so
You heard it here first. He's 2 now. I'm just kidding because the podcast is still going. Please give it up for special guest Betsy Sidaro. My
Thank
name's
you.
Rick Glassman, and you have a best rest of the week and have the best weekend ever.
You just got Sidaro'd.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue. Scoop